I'm Jim Browdy, head on Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library. Embrace Boston's Ideas Festival, billed as a celebration of Black art, culture, joy, and excellence, kicks off next week ahead of Juneteenth. We'll speak with Embrace Boston's Amari Paris Jeffries and best-selling author and director and founder of the BU Center for Anti-Racist Research, Dr. Ibram X. Kendi.
I'm Marjorie Egan. School's either already out or almost out for the summer. We'll open the phone and text lines to talk with you about the rising cost of summer for you and your kids. Day camp.
Pullman, Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Hamas is proposing changes to a plan that President Biden laid out to end the war in Gaza. The U.S., Qatar, and Egypt are trying to keep negotiations alive and reach a ceasefire, as NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports.
The plan calls for an immediate 6-week ceasefire that would continue as long as Hamas and Israel are negotiating a permanent end to the war. Hamas wants guarantees of a permanent truce now, and Israel sees that as a rejection of the Biden plan. Secretary Blinken would only say that Hamas proposed changes, some of which are workable, some not.
The longer this goes on, the more people will suffer. And it's time for the haggling to stop and a ceasefire to start. It's as simple as that.
Blinken was speaking in Doha alongside Qatar's prime minister, who says Qatar and Egypt will continue to try to bridge the gaps. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
President Biden is headed for Italy to attend a G7 leaders meeting. They're expected to focus on ways to help Ukraine pay for its war against Russia. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un says he wants to build closer ties with Russian President Vladimir Putin. NPR's Anthony Kuhn reports from Seoul. Putin is expected to visit the North as early as next week.
Kim Jong-un sent Putin a message on Russia's National Day, praising what he called the unbreakable relationship of comrades in arms. Russian media reported this week that Putin would be visiting North Korea before traveling on to Vietnam. Kim invited Putin to Pyongyang when the two met in Russia's Far East last September. It would be Putin's first trip to Pyongyang since 2000, when Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, was leader. One concern is that Putin's visit could continue the alleged flow of North Korean arms for Russia to use on Ukraine. And in exchange, Russia could help the North with satellite and military technology. Both countries' governments have denied such allegations. Anthony Kuhn, NPR News, Seoul.
Washington State Governor Jay Inslee has signed an executive order. It requires all hospitals in the state, including religiously affiliated ones, to provide emergency abortion services. A recent study from the University of Washington says that there's been a 50% increase in patients from out of state seeking the procedure. Governor Inslee says Washington state can take emergency action against hospitals that don't provide emergency abortions.
Some hospitals have claimed that they don't have to provide legitimate health care services because of some religious belief. I think that's been unfortunate, but this will be clear that emergency services have to be provided.
The state action comes as the U.S. Senate prepares to vote this week on legislation involving reproductive rights. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the bill will protect people's right to obtain in vitro fertilization treatments. On Wall Street, the Dow's up 180 points. It's NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Opioid-related overdose deaths decreased by 10% in Massachusetts last year. State officials say that's the largest single-year drop in 20 years. There were more than 2,000 deaths in the state in 2023, but the total was 232 fewer than the prior year. Those decreases aren't consistent across racial and ethnic lines, however, with increasing numbers of deaths in Black and Hispanic communities. DPH Commissioner Robbie Goldstein says the state is trying to address disparities.
It is really challenging. We are up against 400 years of systemic racism. We are up against over 50 years of a war on drugs that is based in racism. And because of that, it has been very challenging to get the resources that we need into the communities where we're seeing the rates of overdose increasing.
Goldstein says distribution of test strips that detect the presence of deadly fentanyl in street drugs are among the interventions that have helped reduce those deaths. Attorneys for the AARP Foundation, which is the charitable arm of the National Advocacy Group for Older Adults, have filed an age discrimination lawsuit against Raytheon. Suit was filed on behalf of 67-year-old Mark Goldstein of Virginia. It claims that the aerospace company illegally favors recent college grads over older workers in its hiring process. The attorneys allege that Goldstein applied to many positions at Raytheon since 2019 but was never offered an interview based on his age, and they say other plaintiffs may be involved as well. Raytheon has not yet responded to the lawsuit. It is 74 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include TimberTech, sustainable decking materials with no staining or resurfacing needed. A range of products including furniture, porch boards, outdoor lighting, and accessories. More at timbertech.com.
Rowdy, I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library where the air conditioning is on. We're very grateful for that. And we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning. Did you just hear Henry's newscast when he's talking about AARP suing somebody? And it reminded me, I don't know if we told people, the night after we went to see the Rolling Stones, did we mention who the chief sponsor of the octogenarian Rolling Stones was?
The AARP.
AARP,
That's because
exactly.
Mick Jagger is 80, but he was able to dance for 2 hours,
indeed.
nonetheless, an inspiration for us all.
Nevertheless, we're joined now live at the library by Amari Paris Jeffries. He's president and CEO of Embrace Boston, and author, historian, anti-racism activist, and leader Ibram X. Kendi. They join us here ahead of the Embrace Ideas Festival starting June 18th. For tickets and more information, go to embraceboston.org. Great to see you both. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure.
So, Imar, let's start with you. You've got some real heavy hitters showing up, so give us the lay of the land.
Well, we start off with the celebration of Juneteenth with Embrace Honors, and so it is a national tradition of ours to celebrate leaders who've done the work. And if you remember on the Embrace Monument, the 1965 Freedom Plaza, we illuminate leaders who are unsung heroes, and so we're going to do that on the 18th. And then on the 19th, there will be Juneteenth, and there's so many things across the city, a lot of things happening. The NCAA has their annual Juneteenth March, and then the Embrace Ideas Festival, which is a new Boston tradition. We have, of course, my friend Ibram Kendi, Isabel Wilkerson, Marcus Samuelson, Brandon Terry, Austin Ash, a lot of great thinkers, both local and international leaders. And so we're excited to bring them here to Boston.
The thing you're doing is on Friday, right? Friday, yes?
I think so.
Oh, actually, you better find out.
No, Thursday. Yeah, we got to make sure he shows.
Oh, sorry, it's Thursday.
Thursday.
And you're doing it with Colette Phillips. You got to speak really fast. Trust me, if you want to get a word in there.
And Malia Lazu. So he's really, really fast.
What are you talking about at your session?
I think we're going to be talking about racism, and unfortunately, its persistence. Unfortunately, the ways in which it's transformed itself, in this moment. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm excited to be a part of this incredible Ideas Festival, indeed a new Boston tradition, and to be a part of it. I just want to thank Amari for the invitation.
How important do you think the creation of Embrace Boston has been for this community, particularly in light of its history?
I think it's incredibly important. When you look at this community's history, it's a history in which we've had, in many ways, two types of ideas. Many of the pro-slavery thinkers came out of Boston, and as we know, many of the abolitionist thinkers came out of Boston. And both ideas were pivotal to the emergence of both slavery and abolition, just like we've had ideas that were pivotal to the emergence of racism and anti-racism. And we need to negotiate those ideas, engage with those ideas. And I think it's incredibly important to have this Embrace Ideas Festival doing so.
Well, we've talked to you before, Imari, about things seeming to be going backwards since there was, after the George Floyd killing, people were beginning to recognize systemic racism and talking more about it. Now you hear people backing away from DEI. We talked about Harvard University, where you think with their huge endowment, they could be a little bit more courageous, but they seem to be now backing away from their commitments to a lot of things involving racism and slavery and stuff. So it's kind of a disturbing moment.
Yeah, I think the good news is things like the Embrace Ideas Festival and other gatherings, Dr. Kendi and I are friends, and so to have friends and allies come together to keep us together in this moment, a lot of times we've seen throughout history that the advancement in anti-racist legislation and laws, there's been some backtracking, right? And so some have argued this is the third Reconstruction. And so we're expecting to see the type of litigation that happens when you see advancement in anti-racist issues, anti-racist legislation. We saw what happened with affirmative action. We saw what happened recently with the Fearless Fund. We're seeing what happened with the reparations.
Tell people what the Fearless Fund is if they don't know.
So the Fearless Fund is a fund that supports particularly Black women-led businesses. It's a fund made up of Black women who support the growth and the sustainability of Black-led businesses. And we know that Black-led businesses tend to hire Black people. And so part of this economic plan for us as a people is that we need to own our businesses. We need to support entrepreneurs of color. We know that entrepreneurs of color, particularly women of color, are less likely to receive funding and support to scale their businesses. And so this was dedicated to that scaling, that support. And so now it's under attack, and we see the same people who brought you let's get rid of affirmative action are now
Edward Blum, the guy who did the litigation in North Carolina and Harvard and that sort of stuff. And we talked the other day about, we had the woman on who's running the Evanston reparations program. They're suing there, where they're attempting to do down payments, that sort of stuff. You know, as an historian, this, I don't know if you can call it the anti-racism movement, is this just Trumpism trickling down into Harvard University and major Fortune 500 companies and all this? What's the source of all this?
Well, let's think about it historically. In 1824, most American judges were supporting enslavers and enslaving programs and striking down abolitionist legislation. In 1924, most judges were striking down desegregation programs. And so now we have the Fearless Fund, which is providing venture capital for Black women in a society where less than 1% of venture capital is going to Black women. They're employing Black women in a society where only less than 2% of people employed by venture capital firms are Black women. And it's imagined that they're the problem, not the fact that an overwhelming percentage of venture capital is going to white men, and an overwhelming percentage of people who are employed by venture capital firms are white men. No, Black women are somehow the problem, or I should say the Fearless Fund is the problem, and it's deemed discriminatory, as opposed to the normality of less than 1% of venture capital going to Black women.
Well, Blum, though, or Bloom, however you pronounce his name, is being Blum. I mean, his whole life and career. I'm not defending it, but this is what he does. We celebrated, I think, naively, all these corporations after the execution of George Floyd embracing DEI, and it seems to me, X number of 4 years after, whatever it is, you could say one of two things. Either they're being scared off by the right, by people like on that education committee in Washington, Elise Stefanik and the chair who actually...
Virginia Fox.
You were mentioning Virginia Fox, who actually named Khalil Gibran Muhammad, who's with us a couple of days ago,
from Harvard,
as the source of all evil for teaching about systemic racism there. So should we assume the commitment for, let's just stay with corporate America, was all phony to begin with, and when they had the first opportunity to escape this faux commitment, they decided to take it? You're the historian. What are you looking at him for?
So, to me, there probably were individuals within corporations who were serious, but it's likely that those individuals have been overpowered by sort of the dominant thrust of those corporations, the normative thrust, the historic thrust of those corporations, and I think we're seeing that dominant and historic thrust, today.
So I just wonder, you are having this great event and over multiple days, and there's going to be a lot of great people here, and it's going to be a great thing for the city, but it's going to be kind of discouraging. I would think extremely discouraging, this backtracking that we're seeing.
Well, sometimes when you're in the echo chamber, you see it and you get support. And so part of the importance of gathering like these, and so one of the things that Embrace concerns itself with is social infrastructure. That social infrastructure that strengthens us, right? It builds bonds. And so the point of Embrace Ideas Festival is to illuminate Juneteenth. it's one of the newest federal holidays in the country. And if you remember, the MLK holiday took 20 years for all 50 states to celebrate it. This was a little faster. But I think most Americans don't know how to celebrate Juneteenth. It hasn't been socialized into their everyday existence. And so we're positing that Juneteenth, at least in Boston, can be celebrated with Black ideas, Black joy, Black thought, and Black togetherness. And everyone can participate into it, right? Everyone can be involved by joining us, joining other Juneteenth activities and engaging. And so we don't want to commodify this holiday. This isn't Cinco de Mayo, which is a made-up holiday where people bring out these red cups and pretend they're celebrating a holiday they don't know about. Juneteenth is a very serious holiday centered on joy, celebrating the independence of all Americans. And we want everyone to participate in that. And we want them to participate in that way that they're socialized and they don't feel threatened by participating in Black joy.
So we shouldn't be going to the mall in other ways.
You should. You should support Black businesses for sure, and support entrepreneurs for sure. But I think this is a way that all of us can celebrate America's first Independence Day. That all of us have truly been free together as a country, and I think that's what we want everyone to celebrate. And we want, it's a Trojan horse. It's an opportunity to celebrate disguised as a conference, and so that's what Embrace Ideas Festival is.
That's the voice of Amari Parris Jeffries. He's the leader of Embrace Boston. He's joined today by author, historian, anti-racism activist Ibram X. Kendi, who will be participating in the festival.
You know, Ibram X. Kendi, I read this piece in the New York Times Magazine about you, was talking about you're becoming like people were really rooting for your demise. There was a question about the BU Center that you run, the Anti-Research Center, and BU found no problem with this center, but while they were looking into how it was managed, people were really on your case. Horrible stuff. And you've got a family and you've got a wife. I mean, how was this for you?
Yeah, I won't speak for him because we were just over there. He wasn't crying on my shoulder. But I think that the thing about being an activist in this moment, and that at least on a local level, even myself as a local activist have received threats and have had people show up at our office to want to do physical harm to me. I can't imagine what that's like.
Wait a minute. They came to your office? Wanted to engage you in a physical...
Most of the time when we are out and about as just Embrace, and Embrace is just Boston-based, there have been threats to my person. And so I can't imagine to have that level of exposure on a national level if this is happening to me on a local level. And so for us, Embrace Ideas Festival is an opportunity to recharge our own batteries as anti-racist leaders, both in the country and locally. And there's others like Michael Curry and Shagun Idowu, a few of us, Tony Richards, that come together to recharge our batteries, because I think this feeling of being under attack in both things that are public and things that are not public and are not known, how do I announce, hey, I'm also under attack? That's not something that people tend to walk around doing.
I don't want to, we only have a minute, we're going to take a break and then we'll continue, but I don't want to undercut your positivity, because you exude it, and I wanted, because one of your great, even in the face of stuff. What do you say to a young activist who says, I read in the New York Times what you faced, I just heard Amari Parris Jeffries saying he gets threats at his office, join the movement. Well, why should I join them? I don't want to take these kind of risks.
I think we're taught to think about sort of what could happen to us if we resist, if we join the movement. And I would encourage that young person to think about what could happen to them if they don't resist, if they don't join the movement, if they allow this nation to become even more sort of steeped in inequity and injustice, in dictatorial ideas. And that's what I always constantly think about. What could happen if we don't resist, if we just allow what's coming at us to continue to sort of deepen and harm and divide people? And that's what motivates me every day.
We'll take a break.
We are speaking with Amari Parris Jeffries and Ibram X. Kendi. They'll be with us right after this quick pledge break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support, so please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
So there's been a lot in the news lately about the struggles of National Public Radio. People are changing from so-called legacy media like us and newspapers to places like Spotify and Facebook, unfortunately. And there's just another story today on the news about how the misinformation sites are now outnumbering the legitimate information sites, which is a real problem for the United States of America. So that's my little prelude to asking you to support particularly our colleagues here, the young people that come to work at GBH. They're very excited about an opportunity to work for a fact-based organization. We are all struggling, so if you are interested and you like what you hear, this is an opportunity to support us here. And we have a little present for today, which is our GBH 89.7 earbuds. I don't know if you can see them. You probably can't see them.
Well,
it's
we got
too
the
tiny.
concept there.
But they're very cute. They're very nice, little white and purple colors, and they last a long time. And they're wireless, and you can use them on anything. You can use them on your phone, your tablet, any Bluetooth-enabled device. They're $10 a month. We like people that can do the sustained membership. That's the monthly membership because that helps the people that do the budget. So if you like what you hear and you want it to stay around for a long time, the number to call is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
I also want to spend a minute on what Marjorie is talking about here. Is you get to hear us and our colleagues from the Culture Show, the Afternoon Show, the Morning Show. The people you don't get to hear from are the people who make all this possible. The incredible, the producers, the sound people, the engineers. Everything you do supports their incredibly important work. And, you know, this misinformation thing you cited today it's a really critical time with incredibly existential kinds of things going on. And if you respect the work that our colleagues do and those who support them, then this is an opportunity to show it. You just go to 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. What do you call not entitlements? What do you call these? Enticements. Marjorie, I don't think that's a positive phrase, but in any case.
You want to call it a prize?
The
you want to call
enticement.
it a gift?
I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, if you give $10 a month.
Seduction?
Or more, you get this seduction. You get the earbuds. And by the way, give what you can. It really feels, I think you'll feel good if you care about the shows on the station. If it's $5 one time, great. If it's $10 once a month. And if you're rolling in dough, then give a lot more. Again, the number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jim Browder. She's Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library. We're streaming at youtube.com/gbhnews. We're continuing our conversation with Amari Paris Jeffries, who runs Embrace Boston, and Ibram X. Kendi, insanely popular, best-selling author, historian, activist, etc., ahead of the Embrace Ideas Festival, which starts June 18th.
So before the break, Jim was asking you, Ibram, about why you wanted to become an activist, and given the state of the affairs around here. We none of us are ever going to have a big piece in the New York Times Magazine like you, so we're very impressed that you have it. But we read, about back in the high school days, one of your friends were talking about how, you were in a modeling troupe. You were heavily cologned. You were preening before parties, and not really that serious a guys, which I think that they were talking about here. And you went to study sports journalism at Florida A&M. So somewhere along the line, something happened to change the course of your life. What did happen?
So actually, about 21 years ago, I was an intern at the Mobile Register in Mobile, Alabama, and the sports editor, I was a sports reporter intern, asked me to investigate whether the state's top football recruits who were black had interest in playing for a black head football coach. The context is the SEC had never, by that point, hired a black head football coach. And Alabama had just passed on Sylvester Croom to, I think, hire Nick Saban. And so I ended up doing that story, and I think almost every black top recruit was actually interested in playing for a black head football coach. So it became this sort of major story. And I sort of saw how that story, how that research, how that reporting impacted society. And so I started wanting to write more and more stories on sports and race. And eventually I dropped the sports and focused on race.
And the rest, as they say, is history. You know, I asked you about the impact of Trump before. You either ignored the question intentionally or, and if you, I mean, you can say that. But the thing that I am most troubled by is not just in my opinion, the weakness of Harvard, the phoniness of these CEOs who, as I say, embrace DEI and then run away from it as fast as they can. If the election were today, CNN's John King was with us yesterday. He said, Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. A guy who said a couple of days ago in Las Vegas he would renew his program to ensure that no one from a Muslim country could get in this country. We know the day after his convictions, he talked about the inhumanity of migrants, immigrants in this country. I mean, clearly advancing a racist agenda, and half of America seems to be buying it. Is it all him, or were people just waiting to allow these thoughts out of their bodies and he gave them permission?
I think all of the above.
Yeah.
But what I would also add is Trump is presenting a narrative, particularly to white Americans, that they are under attack, that they are being overrun by immigrants, that their livelihoods are sort of declining, that their cultures are being sort of replaced. And there's a lot of people who believe that to actually be true. And then he's presenting himself as their defender. And unfortunately, he's almost sort of, this narrative is actually being used all over the world. People like Marine Le Pen is using a similar narrative in France. Geert Wilders in Holland is using a similar narrative. We just saw the other day how similar politicians really did well in the European Union sort of parliamentary elections. And so this is the sort of wave in which people somehow, particularly white people, somehow feel they need a dictator to protect themselves. And so they're voting them in all over the world.
You know, but as an historian, just one more thing about this, and I promise we're going to be more positive for the remaining minutes, Imari, even though it's not part of our DNA these days. Heather Cox Richardson was here a few months ago with us. Doris Kearns Goodwin a couple of weeks ago when her new book came out. Both of them were confident that we'll emerge from this sickness. Are you?
No.
Why?
Because when I look at the political trends, it doesn't necessarily bode well. Now, it could happen, right? But I'm not necessarily confident, that we'll emerge, out of this.
Okay, so one last thing for you, and then you can tell us more about the festival. In the New York Times piece, we learned that every other page in your notebook or diary or whatever the hell it is, you list things to be thankful for. I want things to be thankful for.
Yeah, Jim, you should try that approach.
Tell me some of the things you're thankful for that are not too personal. Or tell me anything you want. What are you thankful for? What are you writing in that little book of yours?
Well, certainly I'm thankful for the Embrace Ideas Festival.
Okay, fine.
I'm thankful for my sort of partnership with Amari. And
Okay.
I'm being serious.
I know you are.
In this moment, despite all of these challenges, you literally have organizations, you have leaders like Amari who are standing up and pointing us to a different sort of direction. And I'm grateful for that because I'm inspired by them.
So are we. So give us one more pitch here, my
tell
friend.
us and tell us how to get tickets and tell us where people should go and get the schedule of events and all that.
Yeah, there's still a limited number of tickets available. Go to embraceideas.org and you click events and you'll see the Embrace Ideas Festival. It is 2 days. It will be at Mass Art. It will end with a block party, and so that is a citywide celebration. And so if you like to dance and you wear good sneakers, you should show up. And so, Jim, I saw you had hookahs on.
Okay, I do.
You could wear those to the block party, maybe not to the sneaker ball. So,
well, Jay Farrell was here a couple of months ago, and after he was wearing hookahs and I was wearing hookahs, he said on the air, he says, after I see that old white man wearing hookahs, I'm not wearing them again.
They're comfortable. They're comfortable.
They're fabulous. 30 seconds before you go, I tell you, every time my daughter daughter and I go downtown to do something, we stop, park illegally, and take a look at the monument and the incredible plaques around them. Can you say in a concrete way what impact you think the year and a half of the Embrace Monument to tribute to the Kings and all these wonderful leaders in Boston's history has meant for the city?
Well, you know, when they built the Eiffel Tower, folks in Paris thought it was a monstrosity. They said, what in the world are you doing building a tower made of scaffolding and leaving it like that? Where's the skin on this thing? And so we knew from the beginning the same effect would happen. We knew that there were going to be some backlash, and you remember right after the Embrace was unveiled, we were prepared for that. And so nowadays, fast forward almost a year and a half, 2 years later, we see a different result. Embrace, the monument, is a promissory ring. Many of us promised during the pandemic, when we didn't get to go to weddings, birthdays, see our loved ones pass away, that when we and if we survive this thing, that we promise to embrace everything and all the things we love and care about. And so the organization exists to fulfill that promise. It is a physical manifestation of a reminder that all of us have pledged one time or another over the last few years. And so that's what the monument does. And so when you go down there, I urge everyone to stop by there, download the app, get the full 4D experience, listen to it, listen to the podcasts that are associated with it, touch it. It's supposed to be touched. Learn about those local histories. It wasn't just King and Mrs. King. They didn't do this work alone. There are 69 other Boston activists, Jewish, Black, Asian, indigenous activists that are memorialized. 41% of the people memorialized on that plaza are women. Women in Boston in the 50s, 60s, and 70s that have done this work. And if I didn't say Latinx as well.
Well, thank you
both
very
for your
much.
work, and it's great to see you both. Thanks for coming here today. Good luck next week.
It's a very, very great success. We've been speaking with Amari Parris-Jeffries, President and CEO of Embrace Boston, author and historian Ibram X. Kendi. They join us here ahead of the Embrace Issues Festival. Starts June 18th. There are a few number of tickets left. For more information, go to embraceboston.org. That's embraceboston.org. After this quick pledge, we're going to open the phone text lines and say, summer's here. Kids and school, and what do you do with the kids when they are not in school anymore? Are they going to camp? Can you afford it? What are you doing with the kids this summer? You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
You know, we'd like to think we do some things that are special here. I think the last 25 minutes was pretty special with Ibram X. Kendi and Amari Parris-Jeffries talking about not only the state of the country, but also the Embrace Ideas Festival that's coming up. Those are the kinds of things we try to bring you. And we have nothing but respect for our colleagues who do the same thing in the morning, on the culture show, on the afternoon show. And if you want to support the work that they all do and the people that make their shows possible, here's your opportunity at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. And what GBH does is there's always a little something, gift or whatever. If you give at $10 a month, you get these hi-fi stereo earbuds. They're available until 7 o'clock. They work on any Bluetooth-enabled device. And $10 a month, $120 all at once. But as I said before, if you support what our colleagues do, really talented on-air people, really talented behind-the-scenes people, then give whatever you can. Doesn't matter how little it is, and if you're fortunate enough right now to be doing quite well, then please give a little extra and go to gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
You know, your gift doesn't just support the radio. We also have a television station here that produces some of the best stuff on TV. Frontline just won an Academy Award for its work
Brilliant
on
film, yeah.
Ukraine. It's an incredible thing if you haven't seen it. We're going to talk later today. We're going to hear from a Palestinian activist, and Frontline also did a great bit of journalism about life in the West Bank in Israel in 2024. Got Masterpiece Theater, Nova, American Experience, all those things. So it's radio and television, and we have colleagues on both sides that are working for us. So as Jim said, we have a lot of people behind the scenes that put this work together, and they would appreciate your support as well. So again, the number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. If you want to throw us $10 a month, we have a nice gift for you today, these great little earbuds that work with anything, your phone, whatever you have that's a Bluetooth-enabled device, and they are with the GBH 897 logo. So again, the number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live in the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. With the lack of snow days last winter, schools getting out for summer are right on time this year. We're going to open the lines and ask you about your summer plans for your kids. Are you counting the days until you can ship your kid to summer camp? Can you even afford summer camp? Apparently, the costs are going up something like 10% a year. And then we read the story in the Globe about increasing numbers of students facing this crippling anxiety, keeping them out of the classroom for months at a time, is recently highlighted, as I said, at the Globe. So how are you addressing that? By the way, I am an advocate, and I think people know from listening to the show, I think Marjorie is too, for year-round school. 10% of the school districts in this country have some year-round program, which not only solves the financial thing, but also helps solve the learning loss thing that was experienced during COVID. In any case, what are your summer plans? What can you afford? What can't you? How creative are you being with your kids? And what do they want to do? At 877-301-8097. You know, camp is becoming totally unaffordable. You know that.
This story for the American Camp Association says the average camp cost is about $87 per day. Per day, which comes out to $380.
No, it's like $435 a week.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And that's one of the things that say inflation has hit the camps as everywhere else. And there's also a lot of towns have these summer rec center camps. But if you haven't signed up by like February, you might not be able to get your kids into those more affordable camps. And the thing is, the point is, most Americans now are working. Most mothers are working. So if you've got 2 weeks off a year, or you've got 3 weeks off a year, and you've got 10 weeks to fill during the summertime, that's a lot of money to spend. And I think this one guy wrote this very funny thing in Boston Magazine about how what he wants is his kids to experience more of the havoc he experienced as a child, running loose around the neighborhood, but you can't do that anymore because, you know, you feel like you're a bad parent, it's really terrible, and your neighbors would ostracize you, and all that kind of stuff. But he wants them at least to keep the kids until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, instead of having camp end like at 11:45, which means they're going to come home hungry, you're going to have to feed them lunch, and you can't get any work done because you got the kids with you all day long. And people always say you shouldn't be using school as a babysitter or camp as a babysitter. Well, the fact is...
Who says you shouldn't use camp as a babysitter?
Well, I guess you're not going to say that.
You want them to have fun and activities. By the way, I mean, the solution is 11 months of school, isn't it? I mean, isn't that obvious for about 30 reasons?
You know, we always talk about the travails of our school kids. We have in Massachusetts here, these kids can't read in the 3rd grade like they should. We used to be the #1 educational system in the country. Now I think we're down to 17th. The other countries are passing us by. So we're not... kids aren't getting enough school. You always talk about, somebody suggested in one of these stories that one of the nice things maybe they could do in the summer and is have the art and the music and those kind of programs expanded, that you don't really get that much during the school year.
Right, doesn't have to all just be book learning, but let there be regularity so there's not like regression from being out of school for 3 months, not to mention the fact that for parents who can't afford all the things we're talking about, that should be available. In any case.
Well, people talk about, teaching is a tough job, and teaching is a very tough job. But one of the bright sides of teaching is that you have a lot of time that you're not teaching.
Yeah, and what's the point of that?
Well, if you're a teacher, what a wonderful time that you can have at least big chunks of the summer with your kids, right? Because you're not working in the summertime unless you're getting a second job to supplement your income.
Which many of them are.
But I think a lot of people that are able to take the summer off and spend with their kids, which is absolutely wonderful. Anyway, Katie from Rhode Island. Katie and Kid, I guess, from Rhode Island.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
It's your favorite aggressive cleaner. With
hey, Katie.
Henry.
How are you? Nice to talk to you.
Hi.
Oh, my goodness. There is a second person there. Hi.
Jim and Margaret.
Hi.
I'm going to Maze and McCunit.
Wait, where's she going again, Katie?
Henry, tell them where we're going to go.
Oh, Henry, I'm sorry.
I'm going to Maine and Matsunik.
We don't know where Henry's going, but maybe Mom
Where is
could tell
Henry
us.
going, Katie?
We're going to go to Maine.
Oh, Maine.
So Mom and Dad are teachers, so we're off for the summer. We don't pay for camps. We just keep it old school. We're going to a little cottage that Great-Grandpa built in Maine.
Oh.
And then we're going to our other grandpa's house down in Matunic, Rhode Island.
Okay.
Well, you're a pretty lucky family, I
Now,
should
Katie,
say. Henry's pretty lucky, too, there.
Katie, what's your deal? Do you have a lot of time off, or how do you swing this?
Well, no, my husband and I are teachers.
Oh, you're teachers, okay.
I haven't taught in a couple of years. Yeah, so there's no budget for camp. So they're home playing.
Yeah, but that is one of the, I think that is one of the wonderful things about being a teacher is you do get to have your vacations with your kids. You do get to have Christmas with your kids and February with your kids and summertime, at least part of it, with your kids. It's a wonderful job for people with multiple children, I think.
Katie, thanks. Henry, it was great to meet you. Have fun in Maine, Henry. Thank you for the call. 877-301-8097. I really worry that people are not going to address my thing.
The cost of camp?
No. I am obsessed with year-round school. I know you're obsessed with longer school days during the regular school year. Other than money, I know, which is a ridiculous thing to say, but other than money, is there any argument against having kids in school 10 or 11 months a year? I mean, I can think of 100 good arguments and no bad ones.
I've just gotten a couple of texts saying kids need time off.
Fine, so they have a month off.
Yeah, they have.
And let school in the summer be half day, whatever the hell it is. There's something.
Well, you got to remember, they have 3 months off now as it is. If you add up all the vacations during the year, it's 14 weeks of vacation during the year plus the summer. So that's a good chunk of time off.
What'd you do when you were a kid during the summer, by the way?
My mother was a piano teacher. And she did not teach in the summers.
So what'd she do with you?
She was with us.
What'd you do?
We went to the Cape. We went
You
to
did?
yeah, and we had wonderful childcare. She didn't have to teach. Those were the days when mothers really didn't have to work a lot. And I remember it was kind of like a joke. All the fathers would leave on Sunday night or Monday morning. They would all come back on Friday nights, allegedly going to work. And the mothers were down there with all the kids all summer long. But, that was when our upper tax rate was like 90% and 80%. And that's when rich people were paying a lot of money. And the middle class could get by on one salary and have a nice summer vacation and one car and one house. That's when capitalism was working, Jim, which a lot of people say it isn't.
What do you mean,
anymore.
Jim? Like, I'm not responsible for this.
You are responsible.
Call Jerome Powell,
you are responsible
not me.
for this. Anyway, things were different then. We're talking about how people afford summer vacation with their kids, how they afford summer camp, which has become so expensive. If you've got 2 or 3 weeks off vacation, mom and dad, what do you do with the kids when they've got 10 weeks off? Our number is 877-301-8970. You're listening to Boston Public Radio.
Live, local, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan, Boston Public Radio. It's here on GBH Radio because of your support. Now's your chance to keep the conversation going. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
I'm pleased. I was reading some of the listener comments. These are things that people write if they are kind enough to donate. And they talk about the importance to them of balanced news. And they talked about, this is Dan and Ann from Sterling say, we listen to GBH for truth and objective reporting as well as being informed and entertained by Jim and Marjorie every day. Other programs they love, tell me they love the Culture Show, which comes on at 2 o'clock for After Us. And the reason I was excited that people talked about getting reliable information is because I couldn't believe it when I read this morning on Drudge Report, of all places, but people may know Drudge is a great aggregator of the news, all these different stories from all different areas. And one of the stories was about how the misinformation sites have now taken over the good information sites, and that has led to a lot of confusion in the United States of America and all around the world. And you know where a lot of them come from?
No.
Russia.
Oh, yeah.
It's Russian disinformation, which unfortunately members of Congress sometimes are spouting off. So
and
anyway,
so does Fox News, by the way, just broadcast almost verbatim.
It's really nice. It's really nice to have people that they're interested on. It's Shauna from Portsmouth says we rely on GBH for balanced news and entertainment. Thanks for what you do. And thank you very much. Anyway, if you want to join that group, 888-897-9424 is the way to donate, or gbhnews.org.
So here's a good one. Carla from Lexington. I'm obsessed with this show. It's vital to my life as it keeps me well-informed and entertained. I was a sustainer for many years when I first moved here, then had to pause, and now I'm back. Thank you, Jim and Marjorie, for all you do. I can't imagine weekdays without your wit, analysis, and banter.
Wow.
Oh my
I like
God.
that. Yeah, this makes you feel like
we only do this a few times
in my
a year.
head can barely get out the door, and we leave at the end of these pledge drives sometimes. It's very nice, but I love to hear it.
In any case, the deal today is for $10 a month or $120 all at once. You get the earbuds. Dano and Dudley mentioned the earbuds look great in mulch, and the reason he mentioned that is because Marjorie added to her donation to GBH a couple of years ago, got to get the earbuds, and they lasted about 2 hours and then were lost literally in the mulch outside her house. In any case, this year's are unlosable, people say. They're hi-fi stereo earbuds. They have the GBH symbol on them. They're only available till 7 o'clock today. Work on any Bluetooth-enabled device. And for $10 a month or $120, you get them at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. And as I've said repeatedly today, if you're not interested in the earbuds, you can't afford $10 a month, do what you can if you support the work that our wonderful colleagues on air and behind the scenes do right here. Well, welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The air conditioner is on. Air conditioning is on today. So if you're avoiding us because you're worried you're going to melt, you won't. It's actually quite pleasant in here. We have some great guests coming up also as the day proceeds. What we're talking about now is your summer plans. Can you afford what you want to do? We just had a caller who, with her son, is lucky enough to have in the family a couple of houses or places where they're able to go during the summer. Can you afford the kind of plans you or your kids want? And how do you feel about, I was going to say my idea, it's not my idea, but an idea I embrace about having school, not 12 months a year, but maybe instead of 9, 10, or 10 and a half, for a whole variety of very good reasons. What's our number? 877-301-8970.
Here's Andy from Yarmouthport. Year-round school, but 4-day weeks, then 2 or 3 weeks off in... Oops.
I gave the wrong number? Sorry.
877-301-8970.
My apologies.
Yep.
I'm a little confused.
Glad he did that, and not me. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Okay. Andy Yarmouthport says year-round school, but 4 days, 2 or 3 weeks off in the summer. Aaron in Hopkinton says all for full year school. Summer months could be about learning life skills like gardening or fishing or team sports or swimming. And then somebody else says teachers are recovering from the pressures of teaching. They play with their kids and also spend time thinking about what they would do for the next year. Jim, kids need to play and teachers need to recharge batteries.
By the way, did you know, this morning, Hannah, our coworker, said there's something in the Boston Public Schools called Fifth Quarter, which is a free summer kind of thing, which is available, not mandatory, obviously, but is available to parents. So that may fill some of the need. We'll try to check out exactly what that provides. But it sounds like a good idea to me.
I think a lot of school systems have tutoring over the summer, too, for kids who may need it as well.
By the way, you can do it. It's not just teaching. Again, this extended school year, if it were to happen, beyond filling a financial need, can also be fun. Not that learning isn't fun, but could be fun, too. Let's take some calls.
Hold on, just one thing. Chris in Cambridge. The only idea worse than year-round school is the second Trump term. Kids are going to slave away at work for the rest of their lives. Let them have some fun to enjoy the fleeting days of youth.
Well, by the way, I am into free-range kid kind of thing.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned a minute ago, so many parents are so scared to let their kids even out of the house for an hour, much less for the summer. So in any case, Janet in Mansfield, thank you for calling. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Excellent.
Nice to talk with both of you.
You too.
I was a teacher for 35 years.
Yeah.
And I retired probably back in 2017. I don't have a problem with a full year school year as long as it's balanced. And I would like to see maybe 3 months on, a week off, 3 months on, a week off, 3 months on, a week off, something to that effect. But allowing children to be full service, that means the arts,
I totally agree.
Sciences, etc. It needs to be still a full curriculum because they can't be under that pressure all the time if they're in high academic schools.
Well, also make sure every school has a library so they can hang out in the library, explore the books. I mean, there are a whole variety of curricula that people like you, Janet, and those in the education infrastructure could prescribe, but we got to give it a go, and we got to be willing to pay the money to make sure, as taxpayers, to make sure it's available. 877-301-8970.
The problem I have with summer camps, if I tried to go old school and have my kids play outside with neighborhood friends, there often would be no one home to play with. All the kids would either be at their summer houses or at camp. So whether I wanted to or not, I ended up sending my kids to camp. Otherwise, they would have been pretty much on their own for most of the summer.
Did you ever go to camp?
No.
You never went to camp?
I just told you. My mother was a piano teacher. She had the summer off. We went with her for the summer down to Cape Cod.
You know, I've mentioned this before, and I'm amazed.
Did you ever go to camp? Oh, you went to camp.
Not only did I go to camp, the most humiliating thing,
That's right.
I've had a lot of humiliations in my life. One year I went to camp as Honor Bar in Maine, which is Rubino backwards. And the story that I can't believe Marjorie didn't force me to tell, so I'll tell on my own. One year I won Most Improved Camper, which is embarrassing enough because it shows how bad you were to begin with. Do you know what happened my third year? I won Most Improved Camper again. So do you realize where I had to start?
The starting point
to get
was in the basement.
Most Improved Camper 2 years in a row. Totally humiliating. Vinny on the Cape, you have 30 seconds. All yours. Take it away.
Jim, what did I do to you?
I don't know. Tell me.
Why are you trying to put me out of business?
What do you do?
Every time we get the February vacation,
yeah,
I'm a kids entertainer. I do 80% of my business in the summertime.
What kind of entertainment do you do there, Vinny?
The Toe Jam Puppet Band.
Oh, we know. Don't we know you?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Do we know you?
You definitely know me.
Yeah. Do we like you, or do we?
And you're trying to put me out of business.
Well, no. Actually, the exception to the all 11 months of school is the Toe Jam, whatever the hell it's called. What's the name of the thing again, Vinny?
The Toe Jam Puppet Band.
The Toe Jam Puppet Band. We're endorsing the Toe Jam Puppet Band. Vinny, good luck to you. Don't want to put you out of business. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for all your calls and texts. We're done with this. We're moving on to After the Noon News. We're going to be talking with our national security expert, Juliette Kayyem. She's going to talk about the latest in Israel and Gaza. And we're also going to talk about the lead state police investigator in the Karen Reed trial has apologized, sort of, for his misogynistic language about Karen Reed, including talking about looking for nude photos on her phone. That's next. Boston Public Radio.
And you are listening to Boston Public Radio here on 89.7 GBH. It's 11:53. I'm Sonia Lee. I'm here with Zach Finn, and it is our summer membership drive. We are asking you to take just a couple of minutes to help support the programs you value, especially Boston Public Radio fans. This is a great time to make that contribution. And to kind of wrap this hour up, we are looking to hear from 12 fans of Boston Public Radio in just about the next 7 minutes. Oh, I think there are 12 out there. We hope to hear from you. You can give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Support GBH at $10 a month. We're going to thank you with our wireless hi-fi earbuds. They are only available until 7 o'clock this evening. Battery life, comfort will not be a problem with our great sounding buds. They're going to work on the phone. They're going to work on the tablet. Anything Bluetooth you got, these hi-fi earbuds are going to work. The charging case even has this nice little LED screen with a battery display. So sign up as a sustaining member at $10 a month. You can give $120 all at once if you like and ask for those earbuds. Again, deadline is coming up at 7 o'clock this evening. So please support your listening by giving at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And you don't want to form an opinion based on a soundbite? That's why you tune to GBH. We check the claims against the facts. We talk to experts and people on the ground. We explore multiple sides of an issue because you don't want just the sound bites. You want sound journalism. And one of the reasons, especially you listen to Jim and Marjorie in Boston Public Radio, is because they spend time. They find out what's really happening in our community. They spend an hour with the mayor, with the governor, with the attorney general. That's why you listen. It is not about sound bites here. We hope you'll support that with your gift right now. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
And right now we're looking to receive 10 contributions in about the next 5-6 minutes to keep keep on track during this hour. So please sign up as a sustaining member or make that one-time gift. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And today only, you can pick up those wireless earbuds as a thank you gift. These are some of Marjorie's favorites. As we know, you can never have too many pairs of earbuds in case you lose one. $10 a month as a sustaining member, or make that one-time gift of $120 and pick up the earbuds. Now, you got about 5 minutes left in this hour. You might be out and a little bit busy. They're only available today. Why not get them while you're listening to Boston Public Radio? gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
The monthly sustaining membership is the preferred way to support GBH. It's so quick and so easy to set up. You just pick an amount for a recurring charge from your bank account or your credit card. Many folks start out by giving $10 a month, so please take those few minutes right now and sign up. gbh.org or 888-897-9424.
Susan, listening in North Attleboro, thank you so much. She says, I love GBH. I listen to it all the time and in the car. Big thank you to Jordan in Jamaica Plain. Loves Jim and Marjorie and Kathleen in Walpole. Thank you so much. We hope you'll give. We got 4 minutes left in this first hour of Boston Public Radio. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Every day you hear the difference on GBH. The in-depth, unbiased news, thoughtful, civil conversations, the stories told in a way that only GBH can tell them. It's truly the news that matters. Now, if you've never given before, now is the time to invest in GBH. It's your support that ensures we can cover those issues, chase down the facts, and keep you up to date each day. Choose a monthly amount. Maybe that's $5, maybe it's $10 a month, and become a new sustaining member of GBH. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
All righty, we're down to 7 contributions, 7 people to give. 7 fans of Boston Public Radio, especially I love listening to them while they're at the library. Your support is essential to keep Boston Public Radio on the air and available to all. You can give right now. We got 3 minutes left. Looking for now 6 more contributions. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
And support GBH at $10 a month. We're going to thank you with our wireless hi-fi earbuds. Again, they are only available until 7 o'clock this evening. They're so comfortable. They're easy to use. They sound terrific. And, newer phones, they don't have that headphone jack, so our new wireless earbuds really are the answer. Sign up as a sustaining member at $10 a month. You can give $120 all at once if you like. Again, that deadline is coming up 7 o'clock, so please support your listening and sign up. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And right now we are asking you to take a moment to reflect on how much you listened to GBH in the past few months and then become a member. Or maybe renew your membership if it's been a while. Or maybe you can give an additional gift. Or maybe you can increase your sustaining membership. Your contribution, you're going to be joining a group of committed listeners who make a difference in our community by ensuring that GBH stays on the radio in Boston. All gifts are welcome right now. We'd love to hear from you in the next couple of minutes. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Big GBH thank you to Susan and Wellesley. We actually have a bunch of Susans giving right now. So Susan says, thank you for your in-depth fact-check news and reporting. And that reporting is only made possible by listener support. So go ahead and join Susan. Get that call started, 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
Y'all, this is good. We're wrapping up the hour successfully. 4 more contributions, just 4 people giving now in the next just about 90 seconds or so. If you're on the phone, on the web, it will count. And also, be sure to ask for the earbuds, $10 a month or $120 all at once at gbhnews.org.
And if you're already a sustaining member to GBH, thank you. Please consider increasing your monthly amount. Maybe $3, it's $5. Those few extra dollars, they're going to make a huge difference in our ability to keep you informed and entertained. So go ahead, get that call started, 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Comcast Business, committed to providing connectivity for your business with network and cybersecurity solutions. Comcast Business, powering possibilities. Restrictions apply. To learn more, you can call or visit comcastbusiness.com. And Rogers Fish Company, founded by Roger Berkowitz. You can celebrate Dad or your graduate with New England seafood dishes, including double clam chowder, crab cakes, lobster, and fish, delivered to your doorstep. Online ordering at rogersfishco.com.
I'm Arun Roth, host of GBH's All Things Considered, and you and I are listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR. What matters to you.
I'm Jim Browdy, head of Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Doha pushing for a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. But he says Hamas's changes to the deal are unworkable. Harvard national security expert Juliet Kayyem joins. Then we're celebrating 1 year of a new era for Massachusetts' preeminent black-focused newspaper, the Bay State Banner, with co-owners Ron Mitchell and Andre Stark.
I'm Marjorie Egan. We'll talk with Palestinian peace activist and founder of the Palestinian National Nonviolence Movement, Ali Abu Awad. Then we'll end with you. Air conditioning is officially on at the library, happily, and not a moment too soon. Are you someone who needs central air to make it through the summer, or are you the kind of person who looks down on the AC dependent as a bunch of sweaty wimps? All that ahead on Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The U.S. House votes today on whether to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress. NPR's Carrie Johnson reports the dispute between Republicans and the administration centers around audio tapes of President Biden's interview with a special prosecutor.
Prosecutors ended their investigation into mishandling of classified documents with no charges against President Biden. But they concluded jurors might find him a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. House Republicans issued a subpoena for audio tapes of Biden's interviews with the prosecutor, but Biden asserted executive privilege, and the Justice Department has refused to turn over the tapes. Instead, Attorney General Merrick Garland gave lawmakers written transcripts and other papers. Garland says there's no legitimate purpose for sharing the tapes, and that sharing them could make future investigations much harder for the DOJ. Carrie Johnson, NPR News, Washington.
Mediators are not yet able to bring Hamas on board with a ceasefire plan Israel proposed and the U.S. backed. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Hamas wants to make numerous changes, some of which he says are not workable. Here's NPR's Hadil Al-Shalchi.
An Israeli official briefed on Hamas's response tells NPR that it is, quote, not according to Israel's proposal, that Hamas wants an end to the war and that Israel will not agree to that. Israel has maintained that its ultimate goal is to destroy Hamas. The official remained anonymous because Israel is not commenting publicly on the matter. The proposed deal outlines a full ceasefire for 6 weeks, which President Biden said has the potential to become permanent. Families of Israeli hostages held in Gaza by Hamas are pressuring Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to accept the deal. But if he does, far-right members of his government who don't want the war to end say they will topple the government. Hadil Al-Shalchi, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
NBA Hall of Famer Jerry West has died. The LA Clippers, for which West was a consultant, announced his death today at the age of 86. West was a star player and executive who for years helped shape the LA Lakers. He also worked with the Golden State Warriors, the Memphis Grizzlies, and most recently the Clippers. The silhouette on the famous NBA logo is his. The Federal Reserve is wrapping up its two-day policy meeting. The central bank is expected to hold interest rates steady. Here's NPR's Scott Horsley.
Fed officials say they want to see more evidence that prices are under control before they start cutting interest rates. While inflation fell sharply last year, progress in recent months has been slow. As a result of that stubborn inflation, the central bank may not be able to cut interest rates as much or as often as policymakers were predicting back in March. Higher borrowing costs make it more expensive to get a car loan, bankroll a business, or just carry a balance on your credit card. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
This is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. An employee at the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station has been exposed to enough radiation to make the person's body set off an alarm at the plant. Patrick O'Brien, a spokesperson for Pilgrim owner Holtec, says that the worker was examining the top of the reactor vessel and it contacted it inadvertently, causing particles to become airborne. The exposure came to light through an anonymous letter sent to Diane Turco, who's the director of the local activist group Cape Downwinders.
Cape Downwinders has asked the state to initiate an independent investigation into these allegations, and nothing has been done.
Holtec denies additional allegations in the letter related to safety. The source of that letter is unknown. In sports, Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the Celtics and Mavericks is tonight in Dallas. The Celts lead the series 2-0. That's the good news. The bad news is that we may or may not see Porzingis tonight. He's got a rare leg injury. Is day-to-day right now. Tip-off is at 8:30. And watch parties are happening all over town, with the biggest at the TD Garden tonight, which is pretty much sold out as last check. And the $18 tickets were selling for upwards of $300 on StubHub this morning. Red Sox Phillies back at it again tonight at Fenway, and the Tom Brady induction into the Patriots Hall of Fame is tonight at Gillette, going up against the Celtics. Gates open at 4. The event starts at 7. We're at 75 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Mathnasium, who believes that every kid can be a math kid. Mathnasium offers customized math instruction intended to challenge advanced kids and help struggling kids get better. Learn more at mathnasium.com.
Eastern Browdy, I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The air conditioning is back. We're very happy about that. Jim is not wearing his shorts today, but he's...
It might on Friday.
Could wear them on Friday. It's going to be like in the mid-80s, so we're glad the AC is back. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. We're joined now at the library desk by Juliette Kayyem. Juliette is the former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. Hello, Juliette.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, nice to have you.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Juliette, so we just, again, in the news, heard some updates on the Israeli-Gaza efforts to get some kind of ceasefire over there. I want to play you some sound from the United States Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. He's been speaking in Doha after he met with Qatari officials. Here he is.
A deal was on the table that was virtually identical to the proposal that Hamas put forward on May the 6th. A deal that the entire world is behind, a deal Israel's accepted, and Hamas could have answered with a single word: yes. Instead, Hamas waited nearly 2 weeks and then proposed more changes. As a result, and you heard the Prime Minister say this, the war that Hamas started on October 7th will go on. More people will suffer.
So it's not a particularly uplifting assessment.
No. The head of Hamas, you know, he's winning the war because he's losing civilian Palestinians. You know, I hate to say it, but he has the waging of the war by Israel, the sort of lack of proportionality, the way Hamas has infiltrated itself into Palestinian society has meant that there's a narrative of 20,000, 22,000, 30,000, I don't know what number, too many Palestinian civilians dead. And that's a narrative that the globe is receptive to, and Israel is losing that war. So honestly, like, both parties sort of have this weird incentive to continue this. Netanyahu wants this deal. Well, let me put it a different way. The U.S. says Netanyahu wants this deal, right? We have not heard
That's
directly.
Hugely important point, by the way.
That we made representations to the Security Council that Israel was behind this. And we've been through this before with Israel as well, to believe that they would want to go forward. It's just an absolute tragedy. But this one is on Hamas because they have had it for 2 weeks, and then they do this stupid thing where they're like, oh, we have a response. No one wants to say what the response is, but it's not yes. And then so long as it's not yes, then you have, you know, the continuing horror that is Gaza now.
You know, one more question about this. And by the way, we have someone joining us a little bit later in the show, which I'm pretty excited about, who's a long time, despite the pain that he and his family have suffered. He's a Palestinian who is a nonviolent activist who is concerned about peace and security for both sides in this, which I think is really important to discuss. But I read this morning that 80% of the buildings in Gaza are either damaged or destroyed. So let's assume that I think there are 3 phases in this plan that Biden proposed. The UN Security Council, with Russia's abstention, approved unanimously. Let's assume it goes into place. Where do people live for the next whatever number of months, even if the West and some Middle East allies decide to fund, an attempt to rehab what was destroyed?
Yeah, they're living to the extent they can in humanitarian relief zones. That's assuming that Rafah, doesn't have the bombardment. There's military efforts in Rafah. They're trying to get out. They're trying to get visas or access to Egypt and then to other countries where they can. It's almost 7 million people. I mean, I don't know what we're talking about. This is an exodus of people caused by the war strategy in Israel. People give it all sorts of names. I don't need to give it a name. It is just basically the long-term strategy. We know Netanyahu doesn't have one. I think you're beginning to hear that there may be one, and that is a very gross one, which is that actually settlers move into Gaza. In the way that they had moved into other areas of the Palestinian territories. And I don't think that statements, let me put this in the positive, statements from people like Jared Kushner and the Trump people about the beautiful oceans in Gaza and the beautiful beachfront property, that stuff doesn't come from nowhere. That comes from an understanding that Israel's long-term strategy is likely some
resort hotels run
settlers,
by Jared Kushner.
That the settlers go in. That it become that they
become Israeli territory is.
If you're going to destroy 80% of your infrastructure, you're not rebuilding it for the Palestinians. I mean, let's just be honest here. Like, this isn't a conspiracy theory. The Arabs are talking about it at least, but I don't know why we're not talking about it. If that is Netanyahu's strategy, we are assisting it. And we're not getting any conditions that there's a long-term strategy for the Palestinians yet. And we have reason to believe, because Netanyahu's own government is telling us that Netanyahu doesn't have a strategy. So in the absence of a strategy, what are you going to do with this land? They are not rebuilding it for the Palestinians, and they are not, and whatever you want to think about the Palestinian Authority, I tend to think it's a pipe dream. We're stuck.
Benny Gantz quit the cabinet this week over essentially those issues that Netanyahu seems to have no strategy, and the strategy.
Everything I read, though, is that if it forces another election, it's Bibi again. I mean, I just don't think, because you're going to have the right wing and the Gantz wing and the whatever. Eventually, Bibi's going to get more percentages, popular because they got the hostages back. And so that's sort of, I think, what you're starting to hear in the dynamics of what's going on. And so because there's no strategy, the leaders of Hamas believe in their horrible, cruel way that the narrative of dead Palestinians is the best narrative that the Palestinians have right now.
By the way, you're the only person I've heard say that you think Netanyahu survives politically if his new. I hope you're wrong. I really hope you're wrong.
No one's going to get 30%, and it's going to be the Trump phenomenon. It's going to be the Trump phenomenon. Enough people run, and everyone gets broken up, and then you have the one guy that everyone knows and slightly hates, but there's no one better, and they vote for him.
So speaking of Trump, can we move to Trumpism coming to Europe? We just touched on this briefly the other day. There is a colossal shift to the right. These EU elections, stunning most predictors, most people who make predictions in politics, including me, have no idea what they're talking about. What happened in your estimation? What's the consequence for the West, for example, with these outcomes?
I tend to believe I had been following this because you were sort of hearing about this red wave. It mostly impacts France, which I'll get back to. Look, the EU elections are like off-cycle elections where the animated people who hate, globalism and what the EU stands for and all these, rules and regulations and whatever, can organize around, because the EU is sort of taken for granted now. This is a little bit like Brexit, right? I mean, in other words, the anti-Brexit forces just did not organize because they could not believe that anyone would envision an England outside the EU. So they organize at the right moment, of which there's a lot of antagonism towards immigration, inflation, unemployment, and and win. I don't think it's, it's hard to say it's a seismic shift, like this is like the end of the EU, but it will mean that the EU will be less aggressive, I think, in particular on climate and environmental issues, which it is.
And Ukraine, maybe?
And Ukraine. Right. I mean, that would be, although some of them are still NATO-esque. It's hard to describe, but like some of them still are. I think Italy is happy. She sort of got her people in. I think France, so what immediately...
This Maloney we're talking about, yeah.
So Macron immediately turns around and sort of, it makes me nervous, and I'll explain why in a second, but he turns around and says, okay, well, you think you're winning. I'm going to show you you're not winning in France, the Le Pen contingency.
So he calls for the snap election.
July something, what is it, 5th?
2 dates. So is it clear that he's going to win this thing?
He thinks so, but that was what, that's what David Cameron thought about Brexit. He sort of called the bluff, and then he loses. So I do worry about calling the bluff of the electorate. But I think Macron is popular. The Paris has the Olympics at the end of July. One hopes that a Le Pen is not running.
Well, you're making it sound like this is aberrational, but it seems to me, I would discuss it with Charlie Sennett the other day, whoever we talked to. It seems to me it's a natural extension of what we're seeing here, in Hungary, in many parts of the world.
When I say it, I don't think it's the end of the EU. I think it's just representing certain people who wanted to join. In the same way, like all the Republicans in the House of Representatives, there is still a House of Representatives. I don't think it's the end of the EU. I think there are substantive agendas that will shift, but I don't know if that's permanent, mostly because you just look at it and the counters didn't organize. It was exactly like Brexit. Everyone always sits around and thinks this couldn't possibly be real. And it's actually real.
We ridicule and demean, I think appropriately, Donald Trump, but not only has he changed this country, in whether he wins or not, he's changed the world. It is stunning how somebody with that level of ineptitude, I'm serious, and lack of principle and lack of belief in anything. Right. Can have this kind of influence.
How much is the European reaction about immigration and migrants?
A lot. Yeah. I think it probably more in the past, as we've seen like in Germany and elsewhere. But I think part of it is just the diplomats and the career civil servants who represent the EU are just not loved. They are viewed as sort of, nameless, faceless bureaucrats who are controlling our lives. Is not dissimilar to a narrative that we get here. But people I don't know if they saw this red wave coming, but they saw that it was very likely that the EU was going to, not permanently suffer, but it's going to have a bad couple years.
Another upbeat segment. We got to take a break.
Sorry.
Boy, the world is
I know. It's 2024. We get through this.
Well, Baltimore Harbor's reopening. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, okay. We're talking with Juliette Keim. She's a national security expert. We're going to keep talking to her after. We're going to be upbeat during the break, Jim. You were listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
If you listen to Boston Public Radio 3 hours a day, that's 15 hours a week, 60 hours a month, and 720 hours a year. Maybe it's time you pitched in. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
So I've been talking a lot about legacy media these last couple of days. That's because that's what we are, legacy media. We're like the newspapers, like the Boston Globe, New York Times, whatever. When you used to have a local newspaper, that was legacy media too. Lots of people don't have local newspapers anymore. But the reason I bring this up is because legacy media is being overwhelmed by lying, making things up, Russian propaganda, media, and I think it's got a lot to do with what's going on in this country and really around the world, because the Europeans have the same kind of problem over there with this fake news all over the place. So if you want to keep us kind of on planet Earth, I think as places like National Public Radio has trouble keeping their sponsorships going because of Facebook, which has all this baloney on there, and Google and every place else, which has, well, they do.
I know. No one uses the word baloney.
It's full of lies. I'm always telling my family members when they tell me some wild story, I think, Where'd you hear that? Well, I've stopped asking them where they heard that because I know where they heard it. They heard it on one of these nutty radio stations or on their Facebook page or on their algorithm. Anyway, here's the deal. You can support us with $10 a month or whatever you can do if you like legacy media, you want to be kind of living on planet Earth in a fact-based universe. You can call 888-897-9424 gbhnews.org. We had these great little earbuds today, which are wonderful. Earbuds are great, and earbuds are quite expensive, actually, as someone who's lost a lot of them knows. You can get these earbuds for $10 a month. They work really well, and you can use them on anything that's a Bluetooth-enabled, your phone, your tablet, whatever it is. And also, this has a cute little LED light screen inside with the battery display. We haven't mentioned that, Jim.
Huh.
So you find out how much is left in your battery, which is really neat.
Wow.
So for Legacy Media, 888-897-9424 gbhnews.org.
No, the reason to support our colleagues and us is because you can see how much power is left in the battery. That's good enough for me. I'll tell you. In any case, no, it's a fine gift. Excuse me. It's a fine gift, I know. And by the way, the person who's speaking in the background here is a major contributor to GBH, and we always appreciate her support. That'd be Julia Kayam. If you want to join that and support the work that we do, the work that our colleagues led by Jamie and Zoe do, the work that is done in the morning on the Culture Show in the afternoon, this is your opportunity to do it in the summer at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. And if you do, all of us thank you. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're live from the Boston Public Library. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're streaming on youtube.com/GBH News. I forgot who we were for a second. And we're continuing our conversation with Harvard National Security expert Juliette Guyam.
You know, Juliette, this is not a national security story, but I was so incensed by this, I wanted to bring it up with you. People may know about the Karen Reed case. This is going on in the Dedham courthouse. This Boston police officer John O'Keefe was found frozen to death and beaten in a snowdrift in Canton. Karen Reed, his former girlfriend, is on trial. Allegedly, she backed up into him and left him there in the snow to die. Okay, that's the trial. So we had the lead state police investigator taking the stand, forced to read the text he exchanged with his other officers about this case, in which the lead investigator called Reed a, quote, whack job, unquote, used an obscene, even more crude term for women, added another statement she was retarded, made jokes about her bowel disease. I guess she's got I forget what it's called, but it's a serious illness that causes you much stress and anxiety. And as he searched her phone, he made comments and jokes about finding, quote, no nudes so far, close quote. He said the remarks were very regrettable and inappropriate. But I guess my question is, where's the head of the state police saying something about this today? Where are our elected officials saying something about this today? This is imagine.
Yes. I mean, two things can be true. The evidence against Karen Reed is conclusive to the jury, and she is guilty for killing her boyfriend. And that the state police acted in a way that cannot. It was so bad. It's so clearly not an aberration. There's a lot of negatives. But what I mean to say is, they just got caught this time. But people don't talk like this on text unless there's an atmosphere that allows this, right? Because it's not like
it's not the only time they've done it. If they've done it right,
exactly. I mean, you're talking about. I'm scrolling her phone. No nudes so far. That's an inside joke that has been said a million times, right? And it could hurt the case because the only defense they have, just given I think the witnesses and things that she said, and of course the physical evidence, the only case they have is to say, well, this is a massive conspiracy between the Boston police, where her ex-boyfriend was served, and the Mass State Police to find a victim, and then they have to find a suspect, and they have this whole convoluted theory that there was a party and he died, and all the police covered it up.
You know, I have confidence. My takeaway from you're obsessed with this as well. You should be, Marjorie. The issue to me, I mean, whatever happens in the Karen Reed case, I don't mean this to be, as long as there's some justice for the O'Keefe family that almost gets lost in this whole thing, is important. The more important thing is the point you were mentioning this morning. How do you say to a person who relies upon, for example, the state police to be secure, Ms. Security person, Juliette Kayyem, you can trust these people. here's the leader of this investigation in this murder case. This is what he says. And as you say, when are we going to hear criticism?
Yeah.
When are we going to say this is unacceptable behavior?
Yeah.
Apart from the Karen Reed case, this can't stand.
How do you feel if you read this in the paper this morning? You're a 25-year-old young woman
Great
pulled
point.
over at
Great
midnight tonight
point.
on the
Yeah.
Mass Pike by a state trooper.
Yeah.
Are you shaking in your boots? We hear about African Americans rightfully worried about what's going to happen to them. This would make me very concerned.
Well, you know what should happen?
And
The
if
day
people-
the trial's over, not during what's pending, both the Attorney General and the
Yes.
Governor should condemn this behavior, and I think call for his removal.
Yeah.
Well, I think they can condemn it right now. But
I don't
just
think
wanna-
they can do it
No,
in the
they
middle
can't.
of the
But
trial.
I do think, like, you know, there's people in law enforcement who may be listening to this and hating, you know, what's being said and whatever. It's like, it's actually the burden is on them to show that they also find this behavior.
I agree with you.
Well, the thing is,
outrageous.
The thing
And
is, this is just a long litany.
Yes.
We have talks about overtime scams. We have talked
Yeah.
about cops going to jail and the state police for lying about their work.
President
we have a story
Union.
today in the Boston Globe saying a former captain of the Massachusetts State Police is suing the agency's top brass, alleging they retaliated against him after he testified in the racketeering trial of the former union president, Dana Pullman, who was convicted in 2022 of wire fraud, obstruction of justice, filing
Yeah.
false tax returns, sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. So, and then before, it's like this endless litany of scandals, and
scandals, cover-ups, and then going after those who expose them. And look, the only way that this is going to work is that if you get political leadership, and if you get an oversight board for the state police. We do it in metropolitan police departments all the time. I don't quite understand why we don't have one for our state police, which we know it. And I know people are not going to like me saying this, but it's like, then fix it, right? And the 40, however long, they have many years of not fixing it, and then keep saying that, well, this guy's an aberration, or he apologizes on the stand, whatever. It's just, as I said, you don't say things like this on a text as the body is lying there, right? Or I guess they had already left the scene. As you're talking to the lead potential suspect, unless you believe that the people receiving it have received this millions of times before, this kind of conduct, this kind of pictures. And I do agree with you on the gender issue. And most women, you know, unfortunately, we've been acclimated that if a police car pulls you over, you keep driving until you're under lights, until you're with other people. If you're on I think that's...
Well, beyond the wonderful example you picked of the young woman pulled over by a state cop, and let me do the mandatory. I'm sure a lot of them are really good, but then the answer, as Juliet said, is they should call out their not-so-good colleague.
Yeah.
Beyond that, you're on a jury next week where a state trooper is testifying. A normal person, and I consider myself semi-normal at least, would say, well, wait a second. I heard what that guy said last week. I'm not sure I can trust this person either, even if the guy or woman is totally... So the damage that is done by the existence of this one guy, it trickles down to almost everything they do.
And it's the people he was texting to. Is she hot? Oh, she's a babe.
Yeah, you don't talk like that.
Ass.
You don't talk like that unless you've talked like that before, right? Unless there's just a permissive culture of talking about people like that. I mean, we know that, like, as I said, like, you know how the Trump people will often say something and you're like, I can't believe, like, they're talking like that. Like, this is the way that
you can grab them by the whatever.
Grab them and that, if you say that because you've been allowed to say that.
You know, the one other thing that I want to commend, I don't even know the judge's name, but the judge in this case did, when the cop was directed by the prosecutor to read his own text, he attempted to spell the C word. And there was an objection, and the judge sustained it and said, did you say that word? And he said, yes, I did. And the judge said, then say it to the jury. So there's the full impact rather than this, let me spell those four letters so that the impact is minimized. So I'm glad, Margaret, you're obsessed with this, and I think you should be. And when the governor is with us and the attorney general is here next, we can have this, continue this discussion.
Okay, what's the latest on, do you have time?
You have a minute.
Yeah, we'll have to do it really quick.
Well, a minute.
The Baltimore Bridge.
Yes, we can do things. I mean, obviously the
hit by the ship.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's the accident and everything that happened, and there'll be that investigation. There's the money, but the bridge existed because it was over a very important port, and this is, it's not just for industry. Baltimore lives by this port and by the economic sustainability and access that this port gives to a very diverse community in Baltimore. So kudos to get it moving again.
It was 2 months, right? I mean, it seems to me this is pretty rapid work. Is it?
But they got to build a bridge now. I mean, this is,
Well, at least the port is open.
Yeah, the port
which
is
a
open,
huge
fully
part
open.
of what
It's
they do
huge.
there.
It is huge.
Well, good for them. Well, that's a semi-positive note.
Yes, finally.
Okay, fine.
Okay,
nice
Juliet.
to see you.
Thank you.
Her
Good
name
luck,
is
Celtics.
Judge Beverly Canone. Thank
yes.
you. I'm sorry I didn't remember her name. My apologies.
Okay, thank you very much, Juliet.
Thank you, Juliet.
Juliet is our national security expert. She's a former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Barack Obama and the faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. Thank you very much to Juliet. Up next, the Bay State banner has been under...
This will be upbeat.
It will be. Under new ownership for the past year, we'll speak with publisher Ron Mitchell and associate publisher Andre Stark about what they're doing over there and what traditional media misses about the African-American experience that they are bringing to light in the Bay State banner. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH.
Our pledge drive time, and I'm sorry I was getting my microphone on.
What was I doing?
And we want to mention the fact that we have this wonderful enticement today, $10, these little earbuds. And the great thing is, we have these wonderful engineers and brilliant people working for us. So we appreciate all they do, and they really work hard. So this helps them in a very troubled time for National Public Radio and the legacy media in general. So if you want to give us some money today, we'd be very thrilled. The number is 888-897-9424. You can, I don't have the thing in front of me, gbhnews.org. What's the website?
It's gbhnews.org, as
Thank
you
you
said,
very much.
and the phone number.
I'm a little disorganized.
I hadn't noticed that. It's 888-897-9424. Margie, do you want to spend the rest of the time explaining exactly what each of our colleagues does? Do you want to do that? Okay, maybe.
Well, they're very good with the computers. They're very good with the machinery.
You are really
I don't know what they do. I mean, I was a physics for
Let
poets
me tell you
person.
what they do is if they didn't do whatever it is they do, we would not be on the air.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
all you need to know.
All I have to do is stand here and talk.
So if you like what we do and what they do with us, if you like what happens in the morning here, in the middle of the day, the culture show right after us, 2 o'clock every day, and the afternoon show with Arun Roth, support them. And you can do it by calling 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I have very good news for you, Marjorie. We do know what these guys do. So at least we understand that. It's been 1 year, give or take a little bit, since our next guest took the helm at the Bay State banner, continuing a legacy founded under the great Milton Miller. We're joined now at the desk by Ron Mitchell and Andre Stark. Together they own and publish the Bay State banner. Ron and Andre, not only is it great to have you here, the other night was a fabulous event. Thanks for having us. We really loved it. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes, well, I'm bouncing back now. I'm under control. Everything under control. I just want to say one thing. We had a great time the other night, but I understand, and I was very upset, the lamb kebabs were snatched up like in droves before we got there. So that's my only complaint. There weren't enough lamb kebabs.
Okay, well, we will let our caterer know.
Please, whatever they do.
Over so you can have some more.
Okay.
That's fair enough.
Yes. The food was done by a wonderful caterer we've been working with for years, a young lady named Rhonda Persip, Seasons with Soul. So we want to give a big shout out to Rhonda Persip.
You know, in a moment of seriousness, before we leave it, other than joking about the lamb kebab, it was a fabulous event. And the showing, I hope it made you two feel good and your colleagues. The showing of community support from people who I would argue really do the doing in this community rather than just the talking. It was huge. It was really great. And so I hope you felt good about it.
Thank you for that. We, it's funny, and I know Andre and I feel sometime on the inside looking out, you don't see
exactly,
and you don't really experience or understand how much what you work does affect the community. But we've been working hard, and there have been some milestones like the Benjamin and other stories that we've been able to move forward. Some stuff happening in Brockton, the educational challenges.
We'll talk about that nursing home in a couple of minutes. You've done.
But the gala was great, and thank you guys for coming. It was great. We had a lot of good showing.
And the bowling building itself is spectacular.
really nice.
The gorgeous roof deck that you
It
can
was
sit
really
out there.
nice.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous building down there.
But it's so good to be reconnected with the community through the paper. You know, that's the important thing that we have been able to do. And one of the things that I always have said is you learn about things that you thought you knew and you don't know.
Yeah.
And every day it's like that. And there's more and more of those type of stories that are around, and we love covering them.
And that's the blessing of being in a paper in New England. I mean, Boston's and New England's black community is so, so rich. And folks have been working so, so hard on civil rights and human rights and moving the ball forward for everybody for so long. So as we begin to scratch the story on the surface on history stories and things like that, Audrey and I just continue to learn more and more.
So we've had this discussion with you, Ron, but let me, Andre, start with you. The paper, when you bought it, led by the legendary Melvin Miller, today, compare what it is now as compared to what it was a year and a few months ago.
Well, I think we've expanded the types of news that we cover. We have a sports page. We had a virtual art gallery that we instituted. Those type of things, we get a chance to talk to more and more people from the Boston area. Artists that you may not get to hear on regular television or regular programs, we get to hear them. We get to interview them, from Paul Goodnight to Rob Stull, who one person's a classical painter, the other person's a cartoonist. Those are the type of things that we really like. We've covered a lot of different sports stories, from a gymnast from Stoughton who's a national champion with the Michigan Wolverines, to a coach at Roxbury Latin who coached another championship team who's from Senegal, who came over here. And those are the type of things that we really want to do, and we're going to continue to do.
Well, it's not just expanding the coverage. You're expanding, it seems to me, the ability of people to access the coverage from the digital side to this New England bent. But why don't you fill in some of those blanks?
Well, we definitely have increased the reach of the paper. When we first bought the paper, because of COVID, the distribution had shrunk down to 22,000. Now we're back up to 27,000 plus, and that's a weekly free distribution over 400 or 500 drop sites all around
That's
Massachusetts.
the physical paper.
That's the physical paper.
Yeah.
And then we expanded the website substantially. There was a very nice website as far as hosting ability and all of that, but we've added digital advertising, we've added interactivity. You can go, you can apply for jobs, you can apply for grant opportunities. We've embedded a lot of links in the site. We've added streaming content. We're finalizing a relationship. We have a good relationship with Channel 5, and we stream certain news events and things like that. We have a breaking news page now that pops up with different things that are going on in the community. So we really wanted to transform the paper and the website into something that younger readers and a younger audience would be interested in. Andre and I both have college-age kids, and our kids don't read the paper. They don't read a physical paper. It's funny. I would tell him my story on the Vineyard last year, and D.L. Hughley, I was at a show watching him, and he called me on the audience, "What do you do?" And I told him I own a paper, and he said, "Well, people don't do this anymore." And he's opening the paper. People don't do this anymore, And I had to explain that, it's about continuing the legacy of what Mel Miller did, and again, continuing to provide the stories and the access for folks. We added a business section sponsored by the Boston Foundation. The cruise companies are now sponsoring our arts and culture section. So we're really just shoring up the support and embedding various different community organizations into our paper, into our website.
I had a long conversation at your event with James Perry, who I know is involved in the visual arts thing, which is just fabulous. But go ahead.
But that's what I was going to say. You were saying not just expanding coverage, but also doing other things with the site. And that's one of the things we're doing with the site. You're seeing interviews with these people. You're not just reading them. So that's another big expansion.
And the artwork is all on there too, which is a wonderful addition. Tell us about this Benjamin Healthcare Center, though. I thought this was a great story that you guys came in and really did great work on.
Well, as we said, we didn't break the Benjamin Healthcare story, but when our reporters started to look into it, the coverage that first came out was kind of like, there's this historic healthcare center that serves seniors in Roxbury. It's a shame it's going to go out of business. It doesn't have enough money to survive. Isn't this terrible? And when our reporters got in there and started looking at it and talking with the employees, what really came out of it was that there was some things going on in the way it was being run and the way it was being managed. And the Lawyers for Civil Rights came in, filed a case in conjunction with the employees, was able to get a receiver appointed by the court, Joe Feaster, and through his work now, I believe there's an interim director now, and it has a future. And the Benjamin goes back almost 100 years, I don't know the exact date, but I mean, it's a very, very long-standing resource in Roxbury for seniors. And, for us to be able to shore up, to be able to tell the truth about what's going on in that in that particular facility and help to provide a future for it. That's what good journalism does, and that's what we were able to do.
Do you
in
hear
that
it from
story.
readers? I mean, I know you both know how important that is, shining a spotlight on that and the consequence of it. Do you hear from readers, consumers who are saying that really matters?
We get a lot
to us?
of
You do.
feedback.
Yeah, we definitely get a lot of feedback from people who want to hear more of those type of stories. And they're like, oh, by the way, we have this other issue that we'd like you to take care of.
Yeah.
But that's the type of thing that we'll have multiple stories on and watch the progression as the organization changes. Because it's been through a receivership years ago.
Do you two like each other?
We're old friends.
Absolutely.
No, I'm serious. How do you get? I mean,
yeah,
this
how'd
is,
you get together?
We've been friends
Andre?
since high school.
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah, I grew up in Brookline. He grew up in South Brookline.
That's right.
I went to public school. He went to private school.
Oh, excuse me.
But
Okay,
growing
fine.
up in
boy.
Brookline,
Here we
just
go.
a little history lesson real quick. I know we're going to tight for time. Little history. Growing up in Brookline as a black family, you would know all the other black families in Brookline. My parents were educators in Cambridge. They knew Andre's family. When I had my house parties and all that. So Andre and I go back literally to high school. We were friends since then. He worked at GBH for a while. At the same time, I was there in the 80s and the 90s, and then I went on to BZ, and he went on to his various other film and documentaries. I'll let him speak for himself.
And at one time, we lived across the street from each other in Milton, too.
Wait a
So
minute.
that was one thing, too. I remember pushing my son in a carriage, and I saw Ron, and I go, where do you live? He goes, right there. And he goes, where do you live? And I go, right there.
Okay, now, Andre, you grew up in Brookline?
I did.
And
I
went
grew
to
up.
private school?
Oh, here we go.
What is the point? What is
Everybody
the point?
always asks that.
Yeah.
My mother was a very strong West Indian mom
Uh-huh.
who believed in proper English schools.
Oh.
She wanted me to the coat and tie.
Marjorie's song here.
Same way. So
Well-
I went to Dexter School and I went to Noble and Greenough School.
Oh, those are both beautiful, beautiful schools.
They
but you're
were.
right about English-speaking schools because, I mean, I sound like an old lady complaining about it, but people do not speak. We don't teach English anymore in the schools, unfortunately.
Here she goes.
And my mother would have, if she was sitting here, she would go, my son's name is Andre, not
Andre, I know, I said it wrong. I said his name wrong. I'm never going to live this one down.
But
And
yes,
I think that our magic is that Mel Miller, Harvard grad, it requires a serious education and serious focus to be able to take what Mel created and continue it.
Yeah.
And he was one man, we're two. And it is a challenge for us. We're growing it. Great things are happening. We're telling really good stories. But good, the good news and the bad news, the great things and the challenges. And again, I think it takes both of us to really live up to what Mel had done for so
We
many
have to take a break. Before we do, speaking of Mel, and you're speaking of CVB, which you mentioned a minute ago, on June 23rd, there's a special event. What's happening there, Ron?
We're doing a 1-hour television show to honor Mel Miller and to talk about the 1-year secession of the paper. It's a 1-hour television show coming on after City Line on WCVB from 12:30 to 1:30. We're going to have excerpts from our gala from this year as well as last year and various different interviews. I'll tell you more about it.
June 23rd. Excellent.
June 23rd. Yep.
Yeah, great.
12:30 p.m.
Don't go away.
Okay, we have to take a quick break. We're speaking with Ron Mitchell and Andre Stark of the Bay Straight. Andre, I did it right that time.
You did.
Right?
You
Andre.
got Bay Straight, though, wrong.
That's right.
BayStateBanner.com.
BayStateBanner.com. Well, you know what I always say?
Oh,
Just because you can't talk doesn't mean you can't be a talk show host. That's my motto.
Very inspirational.
You're brilliant,
Yeah,
Marjorie.
that's right.
Don't listen to what they say, Marjorie.
That's
You're doing
right.
great. You're doing great,
Okay,
Marjorie. Don't
thank
listen
you.
to them.
Thank you.
Don't listen to them. You're
We're
doing
gonna,
great.
we're going to be right back. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support. So please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
You know, when people are kind enough to give to support our work and the work of our colleagues, they often leave a note, which is really appreciated. Robert from Boxford said this, Marjorie. Jim and Marjorie are excellent hosts for well-researched and written news stories. Well-researched, like talking about the Bay Straight Banner, for example. In any case, he goes on to say, guest interviews are well-handled, very enjoyable with actual news and useful interviews. Thanks. It means a lot to us. I know it means a lot to all the people that put on these shows. Here's your opportunity. Should you choose to support the work that we and our colleagues do here, you do it quite simply and quickly by calling 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. The bonus, or whatever you want to call it today, is for $10 a month or $120 all at once up until 7 o'clock. You can get these 89.7 GBH hi-fi stereo earbuds. They are actually quite high quality, and you can use them on any Bluetooth-enabled device. But whether you're into that or not, give what you can if you choose to support this station. And you do it by going, as I say, to 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Okay, I have a theme today, which you may have noticed.
What is it?
That is fact-based news.
I've heard about
it's
that,
very
yes.
important, and it is shrinking all around the country and
It
actually
is.
all around the world. So when people write in, like Lynn from Rentham, and say, I appreciate the station, they keep me informed. Gabrielle from Worcester says, quality journalism requires community support. Keep up the good work. And people that talk about the fact-based news here at GBH makes me very happy, because fact-based news organizations are shrinking, and it's causing a lot of problems here, and as I said, all around the world. So if you like fact-based news, we need your help, and we particularly appreciate the help you can give to the people that are behind the scenes doing whatever they do back there. I don't really know what they do, but they're very important, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So the number to donate is
She's not quite sure what we do either,
I'm not
actually,
really. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. And thank you very much for taking the time to support this station and to contribute.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marge Egan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We continue our conversation with Ron Mitchell and Andre Stark, who have GBH connections in the past, who today are the relatively new leaders of the Great Bay State Banner.
You know, Andre, you just talked about the story in the Senegal coach, and we talked about the Benjamin, the healthcare place in Mission Hill. But you know, one of the things you learn about the importance of diversity in newsrooms all across the country is everybody's got a different perspective. I got a perspective as a woman, you have a perspective as a man, you have a perspective as African Americans, men and women, and stuff like that. And that's what I think the Bay State Banner. I remember talking to Mel about the great story that got him started all these years ago in the 60s about the welfare moms that they said in like the Globe and the Herald they were rioting. Well, actually, they weren't rioting. They were trying to get some help for their children. So that was a real eye-opener for me.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, Andrew.
No, we see that all the time in how we have to take stories and put our own frame around it.
Yeah.
Because we see a lot of other people making judgments about the community. That's always been happening since we were little kids, about how the community is looked at, and how we have to maybe change that focus of how the area is looked at by the general public. And we see that all the time. There's lots of great things happening in Roxbury. You and Jim were both at the bowling building.
Yep.
You know how the kind of renovations that are going on there. You've seen how Nubian Square has progressed. And people are going, oh my God, I can't go to travel to Roxbury. Well, you need to go there and see what it's all about. And that's one of the things we're going to promote. You can go to Hibernian Hall. There's lots of great events there. And so we're going to continue to tell those kind of stories.
By the way, we have people from Nubian Market on tomorrow.
Yeah, we do.
There you go.
I want to stay with you, Andre, for just a second, if I can. We met the other night. She introduced herself to us, the new managing editor of your paper, who comes from another black-owned and black-focused paper in Philadelphia, my hometown, the Philadelphia Tribune. I read in an interview with both of you guys, Andre, you talking about the hope to build some consortium of black-focused newspapers around the country. Is that happening, or is that pipe dream stuff, and why does that matter?
Right now, we got a grant from the Knight Ridder Foundation to be in a cohort called the Bloom Lab. And it's a group of 8 papers, and they've had it for 3 years right now. They've had 8 different black newspapers every year. The Local Media Association is the organization that's running it. And from the first 2 iterations of that, they developed this organization called Word in Black, which is exactly what you were saying. It's a consortium of black newspapers around the country who have a variety of news in reference to those specific areas and on a national basis. So that's what we hope to be involved with.
Operationally, what would that mean for consumers of the Bay State Banner?
Well, what it means is that not only do we publish stories that we write, but we also publish stories through a mutual use agreement with Word in Black. And even this week, there is a story from Word in Black. We also have mutual use agreements with other publications that aren't traditionally targeted towards a black or black and brown audience. We have a mutual use agreement with the Boston Business Journal, and we publish some of their articles. We have a mutual agreement with WGBH as well, and we share some of your articles and some. And the other morning I was on with Paris Alston and Jeremy Siegel on Morning Edition, and we talked about the history of GBH, what it means to the community, the new reimagining of Basic Black, and all of those things. And I just want to let folks know, keep your ears open. Keep your ears open, because we're looking to talk with and meet with the folks at GBH, because Andre and I are both veterans of GBH in the 80s as well, when Basic Black was Say Brother, and we want to definitely partner and look to help that.
Yep. We're going to talk about.
We heard that
I worked on
a lot.
both of those.
You did?
You
Oh
did.
yeah, Andre was.
I worked for Say Brother. I worked for local productions, and I worked for Nova as well when I was there.
So how important is it? Our bosses have said when it was suspended, Basic Black, the other day, a week or so ago, whenever it was, that it'll be reimagined digitally come sometime in the fall. How important to this community is that, in your estimation, particularly as a veteran of the show?
That is a vital conduit to the community, and it's multi-award winning. There's probably 30 Emmys that have been won by that program.
56 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we've spoken to Barbara Barrow Murray. We did a little retrospective recently, and it was great to talk to some of my former colleagues and have the reporters talk to them. And I go, oh, that's great. I haven't heard from them for a while.
And I just have to chime in. What folks don't realize is that before Oprah did her group of folks in a room walking around talking about it, Say Brother did it. Many other landmark formats that we now take for granted came from Say Brother. I'll let you go on to them.
And we had Charles Ogletree running a forum on racism.
One of the great men
so we've
I've ever
had
met.
so many monumental programming ideas and instruments that flowed out of Say Brother. It was really amazing.
Well, the other thing is, I don't know if it's fair to say it was unique, but in my experience it was unique, because especially if you had some issue in the news that was affecting people of color, and you had 4 people of color talking about it, you don't often get that, and I thought that was a wonderful thing.
It was great, because people always assume there's a monolith of philosophies,
right.
and there isn't.
There isn't.
And they were always able to have various different people of color or allies in that discussion, discussing different perspectives around that thing. And that's what makes that show so special and why we want to see it.
And by the way, when we went to the gala, everybody was asking about Basic Black. I mean, I said,
and all of
I'm not a boss. I'm not a boss.
No,
and all of it wasn't just Basic Black too.
Yeah.
It was all of the programming.
Yeah, I used to host one of those shows. I don't know if you recall.
I know. The others
Really?
We definitely
by the way,
remember
on some other show,
they moved you out a little bit before.
Excuse me,
They
didn't move me out, my friend. But thank you.
So moved over.
Ron Mitchell, you're the one that went to public school. I can't remember.
Yes,
yeah, it was
yes,
you.
I'm
Okay,
the
so I'll
public
ask you
school
then.
kid, yes.
When we went to the break, we were talking about this special on the 23rd. About the era of Melvin Miller, and you said, I want to say more about it, so say more about it before we...
I just wanted to talk about some of the folks who will be talking about Mel. And
great.
So it's going to include Tapa Carew, award-winning filmmaker, legendary. He grew up with Mel, and his speech was just spectacular. It's got to include, some of our local politicians talk about Mel, Ayanna Presley, Mayor Wu, Elizabeth Warren, all folks who have, watched the paper and experienced Mel's wonderful approach to news. But again, it will be a great look at the past as well as a great look to the future.
I'm not laughing at you, but when Mel came in and Marjorie recounted some of her experiences when she was a reporter at the Herald, when he called a corrector. My favorite story.
He didn't call it correct me. He called to tell me I had no idea what
I was talking about. Exactly.
That's what he would say.
But my favorite story, which is so, I wish I knew him better, but it's so him, is the story about when Reverend King called him and asked him to come south. And I believe it's fair, correct me, gentlemen, if I'm wrong, Melvin Miller said, well, I'm not exactly one of those nonviolent kinds of guys.
I'm from Roxbury.
And as a result, he did not join Reverend King, despite the respect he had.
His quote was, needless to say, I didn't go, but yes.
That happened in our first meeting. He brought that story up in his first meeting.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
That's exactly right.
Well, gentlemen, I'll tell you, we had huge fun the other night, and you were doing a fabulous job after a year, and we hope we continue our relationship with you, too, into the future.
Yeah,
really appreciate having you here. Yes, Ron.
One thing we didn't mention was our new managing editor. We got to give her a shout out.
She's great.
Jemima Perry. I know you talked about her.
We did talk to her, too.
So soon we'll have her join us one of these days over the next few months. But big shout out to Jemima Perry. She came from, as you said,
Philadelphia Tribune.
There you go.
Indeed.
Thank you
See
both
you, gentlemen.
very much.
Thanks so much.
BayStateBanner.com.
BayStateBanner.com.
Thank you, guys.
We have
Thank
been
you.
speaking with Bay State Banner publisher Ron Mitchell and associate publisher Andre Stark, and it's baystatebanner.com is the website. Thank you both,
Thank you,
gentlemen,
gentlemen.
for coming in.
Thank you so much for having us.
Up next, Palestinian Ali Abu Awad has been working toward lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians for decades. He joins us on Zoom to talk about nonviolence, self-determination, and his own traumatic childhood growing up on the West Bank. You are listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It is 12:55. You are listening to Boston Public Radio on 89.7 GBH. I'm Sonia Lee. I'm here with Kiki Loa. This is our summer membership drive. It's going well today. We're asking you to take just about 5 minutes, just a couple minutes right now, and make a contribution to support Boston Public Radio and this daily source of news and conversation you don't find anywhere but here on GBH. And in these last 5 minutes, we are looking to hear from 15 people, 15 contributions in the next now 4 minutes. You can give online, gbhnews.org, or call 888-897-9424.
And when you support GBH at $10 a month, we'll say thank you with our wireless hi-fi earbuds, but they are available today only. Battery life and comfort will never be a problem with our great sounding buds. They'll work with your phone, tablet, or any Bluetooth-enabled device. The charging case features an LED screen with a battery display. So sign up as a sustaining member at $10 a month or give $120 all at once, and make sure to ask for those earbuds. The deadline is tonight at 7 p.m. Why don't you take a look at them and get a pair for yourself when you go online and click the donate button at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And what makes public radio special? It is radio worth remembering, radio that matters to you after it's been broadcast. You meet people who inspire you. You are introduced to ideas that help you grow in your thinking. And you also make public radio special. And you are the reason that we can have a program like Boston Public Radio. You don't find anything else like it on the radio dial. And so we're asking you, a Boston Public Radio fan, to contribute right now. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
And the clock is ticking away, but we are still looking for 13 more contributions. That is 13 more contributions in the next 3 minutes. What part of that can you help with? Make a contribution right now when you go online to gbhnews.org or call us at 888-897-9424.
And be sure to get the wireless earbuds as a thank you gift. These are available today only, and if you want to get them during Boston Public Radio, well, time is running out. You got just about 3 minutes left here in this hour. $10 a month as a sustaining member, or a one-time gift of $120. If you have some, well, you can never have too many in case you lose a bud or two, as Marjorie has done. But be sure to support Boston Public Radio and get your earbuds at the same time. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
The monthly sustaining membership is the preferred way to support GBH. It's quick and easy to set up. Just pick an amount that's for a recurring charge from your bank account or your credit card. Many folks start out by giving $10 per month, and again, you can get those fantastic earbuds. Please take a few minutes to sign up right now before the end of the hour. That's 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
And Wally loves hearing about what's going on in Boston, Wally in East Chatham, New York, and also we heard from Christina North Marshfield, who says it's very important service that you provide. Thank you so much. We are now looking for we're still looking for about 10 more contributions, 10 more people to give. We got just a couple minutes left. It's been going well, but we do need to keep on track for this membership drive. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
If you've never given to public radio before, we are talking to you. You listen every day. You count on NPR and GBH as your primary source for news. This radio station runs on idealism. It runs on the belief that you will see the fairness in paying for what you use. GBH is worthy of your attention. That's why you listen. Now, we ask you, please give an amount that you think is fair. Become a first-time member to GBH right now. Make the call 888-897-9424 or go online, gbhnews.org.
Alrighty, down to 9 contributions needed. Judy in Worcester, thank you, showing her fandom for Boston Public Radio. Can you show your fandom for Jim and Marjorie? Not much time left here. We're going to be going back to the program, but we do need to meet this goal. Just about 8 more people to give. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
And just a reminder again that when you are one of those 8 people to make a contribution in the last couple of minutes right now, we will say thank you with the new GBH Hi-Fi earbuds. Again, they're fantastic wireless earbuds for $10 per month or $120 all at once. 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
I'm Nicole Garcia, producer for BPR, and you're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR. What matters to you?
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jim Browdy. She's Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Ali Abu Awad was a teenager when the first intifada broke out between Palestinians and Israelis. He spent time in jail. We'll talk a lot more about that. We read the works of Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi. Now in his 50s, Ali has dedicated much of his life to pursuing Palestinian self-determination and safety and security for Israelis through non-violence. He founded the Tagir movement, I hope I pronounced that right, which means change in Arabic, and the organization Roots, an Israeli-Palestinian project in the West Bank that works for coexistence by changing people's narratives. And we should say our colleague Zoe volunteered on his land in the West Bank in 2014 to help build a community center for Roots. He joins us now. Ali, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. So let's start at the beginning. Tell people about your background, your history, your growing up.
My name is Ali Abu Awad. I'm a Palestinian who was born in the West Bank to a refugee family from 1948. And I encounter and I lived the conflict, but even different than many others, because my mother has become a political activist of PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. And she was arrested for several times until 1987, when the first Intifada, the first Palestinian uprising, started. And I found myself in the street throwing stones, a kid of like 15 years old, throwing stones on Merkava tanks, and I have no idea what the hell I'm doing exactly. But it was my scream, it was my voice to tell the world that we deserve to live normally.
You know, I'm sorry, go ahead, continue.
Then I end up in prison with my mother in 1990. I was given 10 years to prison, actually, and my mother served 5 years. And my first encounter with nonviolence started in prison when I wanted to visit my mother for 3 years. Israel always refused, to her other prison. And then we decided to go for a hunger strike, and 17 days of strike, of starvation, that end up bringing us to see each other. So that was my first lesson, to see that with all of my demand for my legitimate rights, but I was blind to the best weapon that I have never used, which is my humanity. Well, my anger was leading me.
Yeah, you wrote very poignantly about this, or talked very poignantly about this, when you said that the weapon you never used was your humanity, and that my enemy couldn't stand the humiliation of my humanity. What did you mean by your enemies not being able to stand that?
I'm not sure I understood your question.
You wrote that in the hunger strike, your humanity was the key, and that your enemy couldn't stand the humiliation of your humanity. And you said that's the secret of nonviolence. So elaborate on that. What did you mean?
Yeah. You know, people in general think that in nonviolent struggle, when we get armed with our humanity, so our humanity is irresistible, and it becomes our weapon. I even went beyond that, much farther than that. I said, my enemy's humanity is my best weapon also. So when you show your humanity, by the end of the day, your enemies are human beings. They cannot resist to see the humiliation that they are doing to an innocent human being. Someone who's not harming them, someone who's not threatening them, someone who stands actually for their morality by leading a moral approach of nonviolence. And this is what I have seen when I lost my brother afterward in 2000. And when I met Israeli parents who have lost someone in the conflict, all of these years, I couldn't even imagine that Jewish people has humanity. I couldn't imagine until that time that they have tears or they can cry. Until I met those innocent victims, and I realized, even though our life is not equal, even though that there is occupation and occupied and occupier, but by the end of the day, we are all human.
You know, Ali, when you said you lost your brother, Youssef, you lost your brother to an Israeli bullet. And I wonder, you had this, for lack of better expression, evolution, conversion while you were in jail to believe that nonviolent advocacy was the path to a safe and productive and self-determinating, determinative future for both sides here. But if you speak to a young Palestinian family or young Palestinian man like you were when you were throwing rocks, and he tells you he lost his family to the bombing from Netanyahu's government, his mother, his siblings. We've read many stories like this. And he says to you, I can't believe in nonviolence after the violence has been perpetrated against the people I love. What do you say to that young man who was like you 30 plus years ago?
I think you already answered half of your question. Sometimes we have to understand where this violence comes from. No one was born to be a killer or to get killed. People who have lost home, who have lost hope, who have lost members are the best potential violence people, but it's their emotion, it's not their mind. They are not convinced that killing an Israeli will lead them to freedom, but they are led by their emotion. Exactly like what is going on in Israel today. I think the trauma of the Jewish Israeli people is leading the Israeli politics and leading the war. Mm-hmm. And that's why the nonviolence uprising for Palestinians will be the best key for their freedom. So when I speak to young people, I don't speak about transformation and good intention and let's meet Israelis over hummus and let's hug each other. No, this is not the language. Nonviolence is a very political approach as well. Nonviolence, I think there is a lack of understanding what is real nonviolence is about. Nonviolence is an identity. It's not a tactic. It's not a strategy. It's not to be a Mandela. No, it's just to be a human, responsible, with a strategy and practical steps on the ground to change people's life more than just change people's hearts. You know, Palestinian needs resources, normal resources for daily life. They don't need someone to convince them about peace because they have never tasted it. Mm-hmm. They need peace to live with it, and peace itself will secure all of us.
Well, you know, this is something I hadn't thought of until I was reading about you in preparation for today, that when the Hamas terrorist attack happened on October 7th, we heard accounts and read accounts about the Israeli family that had the safe room in their house, or they had the shelter in the backyard, and that they had spent hours in different attacks and missiles coming in, and it was such an odd thing to think about that you live that way with a bomb shelter essentially in your home because there's so much violence, and you juxtapose that to the Jewish families living with that constant fear of being bombed, and then the Palestinians with no rights and living in West Bank and with the settlers coming into the West Bank, and then no rights in Gaza. So it was you were painting a picture of both sides in kind of a terrible place, it seemed to me.
Yes, both sides are suffering. And believe me, sometimes when people, especially right-wing Jewish people, they tell me you advocate for peace, but you raise your kids to hate, guys. You teach your kids to hate Jews. Then I say, well, if you live in Gaza, in Jabalia refugee camp, or if you live in Sderot where these rockets fall and you have to spend your summer in shelter, I'm not sure you need a specific curriculum for hatred, because it does make the job for you. So my word will be, after more than 70 years of this conflict, now we are dealing again with activity. This war is an activity. We have to deal with the roots of the problem. And what I have been saying since the war started, if people look for ceasefire, yes, definitely, ceasefire is needed immediately. But more than that, we need cease conflict, because seize this conflict by having two-state solution and responsible leadership and a national reconciliation between both sides will guarantee everything that we want.
We're speaking to Ali Abu Awad, who is a nonviolent activist who believes that that's the route to get to Palestinian self-determination and security and safety for Israelis. So let's assume that this Biden-drafted UN Security Council endorsed ceasefire is to happen, and it's unclear if it is to happen. What are the next steps in your mind, Ali, to crack the minds open of your fellow Palestinians and Israelis to be willing to consider your approach to a lasting peace and prosperity?
I'm sorry to say that it doesn't seem that it's going to happen. I mean, the Biden proposal with my sorrow, because, there are two facts for each side. One fact for Bibi Netanyahu and his government, there are two goals. He wants to destroy Hamas and he wants the hostages back. That's the title, and this is the core of all of the militant activism in Gaza. For Hamas, they want a release of prisoners, they want a ceasefire forever, and they want a rebuild of Gaza. I don't think by what is happening this can be achievable, which means whether to leave us for the status quo, or my proposal will be, first, we need an international peace conference that all sides are represented. Number two, we need a political umbrella to guarantee the process toward the two-state solution, especially with President Biden, and hopefully he will be elected. Otherwise, it's going to be a disaster again. Number three, we need definitely to engage the Arab, not just to rebuild Gaza. We need the Arab to partner with Israel and the PA, the Palestinian Authority, in a very strategic 5 years approach that will end by a state for the Palestinian. Palestinian needs guarantee that this is going to happen. So they have to know what is their duty, whether toward the Israeli security or to their own people, but they also have to feel secure that it's going to happen, because we try it many times, it has never happened. And finally, we need the grassroots activism. We need the grassroots, we need Palestinians, especially my people, to adopt nonviolence as the only choice and the only approach for their cause of freedom. And we need the Israeli society and the Jewish people in general to change their mind about what has happened. This is not another Holocaust. God forbid it. But emotionally, they are taking it like this. There is a lot to be healed, and we need the international community to invest a lot in both sides and to help us get out of this darkness.
You mentioned before understanding that that Jewish people are human beings and tears and all that. I read where your mother invited some Jewish people into her home, I believe, for conversation. Tell us about that.
Yeah, when an Israeli Jewish father who have lost his son in the conflict approached my brother, and he said that they heard about my family, our loss, and my mother and her involvement in politics with Arafat, and they want to come to pay condolences, and they stand for our rights. For me, it was like illusion. Yeah, like this cannot be true. No way. People who have lost someone want to meet us. I know what does it mean to lose someone. You don't want to see the other side that minute. And number two, I couldn't even imagine that my mother, as a leader of PLO, will receive Jewish people to my home. But you know what? These guys didn't come with M16 and tanks. They came with their humanity and their tears. And my mother accepted that. And believe me, that was the first time in my life I sat with a Jewish human being and I saw a mother crying, holding my mother's hand. And both of them end up crying, even without knowing the language. The power of that meeting. I'm not a psychologist. I cannot really describe what exactly happened. But by the end of the day, mothers are mothers. These Jewish mothers who send their kids to the army, these Palestinian mothers who send their kids to school and they become involved to whatever you call it, terrorist attack or violence or armed struggle or a freedom fight, by the end of the day, when they lose someone, they have never been proud of it. They sleep with tears in their eyes, and mothers are mothers. Mothers want to protect their kids. And this is what my mother told me. I told her, what the hell is going on? Why you did that? And she said, because I want to protect the rest of you. There is no other way. We can lead this struggle in any meaning. But there is just one meaning could be so powerful. It's the meaning of nonviolence.
Ali, I have to say, this was really an important conversation for us to be part of, and we really thank you for your time and your work and your approach to the world. And if people want to learn more about Ali and his work, you go to ALI, I'm going to say it twice, ABUAWWAD.com, Ali Abu Awad, AWWAD.com. Ali, again, good luck with your work, and thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being with us. We much appreciate it and all we learned.
Boy, could we use some more of that?
Yeah. We have been speaking with Palestinian peace activist Ali Abu Awad. He's founder of Tagir, the movement. That's TAGHYEER, the Tagir movement, and the organization Roots, an Israeli-Palestinian project in the West Bank that works for coexistence by changing people's narratives. Thank you again for being with us. Up next, we're opening the lines after a pledge break to ask you about something that's a little bit more mundane, I guess, your air conditioning habits. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
You know that interview you just heard? Only on Boston Public Radio can you hear conversations like that every day, commercial-free. Instead, we ask you to step up and show your support every now and then. So pitch in at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Okay, this
By
is
the way, can I interrupt just saying we were remiss with not mentioning, in addition to everything else Ali did, no, he was awarded the 2023 Indira Gandhi Prize for his work to bring peace. I'm sorry that I failed to mention in the introduction.
No,
go ahead.
by the way, his work is some of the most uplifting stuff I've read about the whole solution to this tragedy that's going on and on and on. But anyway, back to GBH here. This is a great time to give if you've been hesitating. We have a match in effect to the end of this hour. That's an every dollar you give match deal so that a GBH member, you give $1 and GBH member match fund will donate an additional $1. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal. You give $5, it turns into $10. You give $50, it turns into $100, thanks to the generosity of these people in the member match. Your sustaining gift of $10 a month pays for $240 worth of Boston Public Radio. Right now, they could get through Jim's sandwiches for like a couple of days, I think at least, here at the Reduced Feed Cafe. And if you join, I'm only kidding, of course, about that. Your individual contribution joined with others will help pay for more of the news and entertainment programs you value. And for the people, as we've been talking about all day, the people that do a lot of the work behind the scenes, technical stuff behind the scenes, without whom we couldn't do the show at all. So if you haven't given and you are hesitating, now is a great time. It's a 2-for-1 deal. It's kind of like a coupon here at GBH. 888-897-9424 is the number. gbhnews.org is the website.
It's kind of like a coupon?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, you get a coupon. You get a coupon, you get a 2-for-1 deal.
Oh.
Yeah.
You get, buy one, get one.
Well, buy one, get one, or a 2-for-1.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the deal. There is a match. Every dollar you give gets matched 2-to-1. I mean, doubled is the bottom line, which is really important. And you can support the work you hear here from morning till night. What are you laughing about?
You can donate for Marjorie, and you get Jim for free.
Well, that's fine. Maybe you do, actually. But regardless, this does hopefully matter to you, or you wouldn't be hearing my voice. And our colleagues matter to us. And so if you want to support us, support the work they do, here's your opportunity. And by the way, for $10 a month or $120 all at once, you get these these earbuds that are terrific, the GBH hi-fi ones. Marjorie had them for a day once. And they work with any Bluetooth-enabled device. Again, $10 once, $120 all at once. And by the way, $10 becomes $20. $120 becomes $240. That's the whole point of a match. The whole thing goes away at 7 o'clock, so please do it now. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady and Marjorie. I've thrown out all my notes. Can you take it from here, please?
Oh, okay. Well, here's the deal. We've been complaining a lot about how there has not been any air conditioning at the Boston Public Library. There is air conditioning now at the Boston Public Library, and we're very happy about that.
There is.
So here's the question. It's going to get hot very soon. This Friday is going to be really hot. We've been spared it so far, but it's going to get worse. What better time than talk about our own air conditioning habits in the summer? According to the Department of Energy, the best technique for staying cool and minimizing costs, Jim, is to keep your home at 78 degrees during the day.
That is the dumbest. I don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I really don't. And let me tell you, I am not an air conditioning guy, as you know. I lower the Tesla. I do have a Tesla, as Marjorie has said once or twice.
Yep.
I blast, for example, my Eton emergency crank radio at 89.7, the wind blowing through my remaining hair. Marjorie, on the other hand, is a big-time AC user.
I am not.
I see her window. Excuse me. I see her windows in her car closed all the time. And so we want to know, where are you on this air conditioner thing? If you either don't like it, like I don't, or you can't afford it, or it isn't provided where you rent, give us a buzz, 877-301-8970. By the way, this is not the larger discussion we have every hot summer about how do you stay cool. We'll do that in a few weeks. This issue is about where are you on the whole issue of air conditioning, whether it's cost, whether it's environmental impact, whatever it is. What's your take? 877-301-8970. If you're not using air conditioning, how come every time I drive by you, I have to tell you to roll down your windows to talk to me?
Jim is once again making up some
Is that
story.
not true?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Jim. I really don't know what you're talking about.
Do you use air conditioning in your car?
Yes,
I never
do.
use air conditioning
Okay,
in my
you never
car.
use air conditioning
I just
in his
said
car.
that. Yes,
That's
right.
what he says.
Almost never.
But I think the big deal and by the way, it is very bad for the planet to be using air conditioning in the car. You can open the windows or open the sunroof. But I think it's becoming increasingly difficult for people not to have air conditioning in their homes.
Fans.
Because the heat,
ceiling fans.
I have ceiling fans, and ceiling fans are great, and you can put fans at strategic places in your home to suck out the hot air. But, people are dying now. I hate to be depressing.
We're not in Arizona. This conversation is in Boston.
But you can be in a very hot building right now. You can be like on the 10th floor of some high-rise. And because it's become so hot and so humid in the summertime, it's going to be 86 degrees on Friday. We've been close to 100 degrees here. You know why?
It is.
Because of climate change. So I think people that never used to have air conditioners before are getting air conditioners in their home. And they do say that you should not go put them at 68 degrees or 66 degrees degrees. You should put them at 78 degrees.
It's ridiculous.
Well, that's what National Grid says. But you know why?
No.
Because you're saving a lot of money, and you're also saving a lot of stress on the system. It's hard to get the house down to like 66 degrees. It's not that hard to get it down to 78 degrees. And, the other thing, buildings. This place is good. But I have been in buildings where you go in the summertime in July, and you are freezing in there because it's so cold. You have to bring a sweater.
And you can't open the windows either
No,
in
you
most
can't open the
modern
windows.
buildings.
So that's the deal. I think a lot of people have gotten air conditioners. I've broken down and gotten air conditioners, especially during the pandemic. If you have to work from home in the summertime, it was a little warm in my house. I didn't want to have to get the spray bottle, from CVS and just spray water over myself all day long.
$3.99,
It
by the
is,
way.
but it doesn't when it's like almost 100 degrees and really humid. It doesn't do the
One word.
job. Jay in the car, what?
Fan.
Fan.
I'm telling you,
I have lots of
ceiling
fans.
fans are the solution to almost everything that is wrong in life. I'm telling you right now.
Jay in the car, thank you for
They're
calling.
pretty
What do you
too,
think,
by the
Jay?
way.
They
Hi,
are
Jay.
very pretty.
Hello, Jay.
I am so glad that you brought this up again.
Why?
Because for several years,
Yeah.
I still cannot comprehend how Marjorie puts her sheets in the washing machine.
Okay, we
and
can't
puts them on
resist
the
this.
bed.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I can't get it. I don't understand it. It freaks me out. I don't know how she does it.
Well, for new listeners, you should describe what
Jay,
it is.
you haven't tried it yet, clearly, correct? Here's what you do.
I'm scared to.
Okay, well, you don't have to be scared to. Here's what I did, especially when my kids were little, and I was on the third floor of a triple-decker where it was very hot, and we did not have air conditioners. So what you do is you put the sheets in the washing machine, take them out of the washing. Don't put them in the dryer. Take them out of the washing machine, preferably wash them in cold water. Take them out of the washing machine and put them on the bed. And then when the children get into the bed feels very cool. People think it's clammy. It's not clammy. It feels very cool. The first couple of seconds are a little weird. But it is like you are sleeping in air conditioning. The pillowcase is cool and slightly wet. And then by 3 o'clock in the morning, the sheets are all dry again, but it doesn't matter because by then it's a little bit more cool and you have slept. So it really does work. The alternative, you don't want to go through all that trouble.
What is it?
You just get the aforementioned spray bottle from CVS, and you spray all the sheets and you spray the pillowcase and you wet everything. And I know people think it's disgusting and clammy, but again, when it's that hot, everything dries by the middle of the night.
And Jay, let me tell you, the one thing Marjorie left out that almost makes it a perfect thing, you wet the sheets, you put them on the bed, and you have a little butter knife and you scrape off the mold in the middle of the night on your sheets, and then you're all fixed up. Jay, try it, call us back. Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. 877-301-8897.
There was a Hints for Heloise. It used to be in all the newspapers when I was a kid.
she was, yeah.
And that's where I read about it.
Yeah.
And when I was in places in my young life where I didn't have air conditioners, and even obviously when in my older life when I had children, it works. Freve, is it Freve from Easton? Thank you for calling, Freve.
Hey, Freve, what's up?
Oh, my name is Fritz.
Oh, sorry.
Hi.
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 That sounds like a very interesting idea to keep cool.
Yeah.
But I think the number one thing is when it comes to keeping cool. So I work with the elderly in home care for physical therapy.
Yeah.
And living in Massachusetts, we know in the morning you open up your window, let the cool air come in, and then right when the sun comes around 12 o'clock, you close the window so that it stays cool.
Right.
Now I instruct my patients to do so, but let me tell you something.
Yeah.
This heat has changed. When I first started to live in Massachusetts, it wasn't this hot.
Right.
So now that it has gotten this hot, for the welfare of the elderly, we need air conditioning for them.
Can I tell you something?
Wait,
you can go in a second. Everything I said before excludes older people who can't be boiling, like a fan's not going to do it. I totally agree. So what do you do to somebody who can't afford an air conditioner or rents a space where air conditioners are not provided? What do you do with those people?
Okay, so those with in the morning, you open up your window.
Yeah.
You leave your window open at night when it's cool, when the temperature drops.
Okay.
As soon as the sun comes out, you close your window.
Yeah, I heard that. Yep.
You close your shade.
Got it. Oh, close the
So
shades
that
is good too, yeah.
Yes, the room stays cool. Now, when the sun starts to set,
Yeah.
you open up your window again.
Got it.
You put a fan to circulate the air. Now, and then you use lots of cold water. You drink lots of ice cold water.
You're incredible.
In the meantime.
You have like a doctorate in this, or what's the? I mean, it's incredible. By the way, the people who you
serve.
Yeah.
I bet you do. And people you serve are lucky to have.
in sustainability.
Good for you. I bet you do. Hey, that was a fabulous call, and thanks for helping us out here. We appreciate it. So with the exception of really older people who should follow the rules of the prior caller, everybody else, I think, can use fans. It's good for the environment
and
all that stuff. What's
a lot
that?
of hostility from the texters.
What are they saying?
Here's Leela from Rhode Island. Clearly, Jim Browdy has never had a hot flash. And another texter says, do not tell a perimenopausal woman she cannot have air conditioning. It will not end well for you.
Let's add them to the list then, too.
Now, humans are very adaptable, says another texter. If you let yourself get used to the heat, you can handle it, exceptions for kids and older people, etc. And that is true, because I do hot yoga. That does help you deal with the heat. Yeah, it absolutely does.
Wait. How hot is it in hot yoga?
Like 98 degrees.
And so when you come out of that and you go into hot air, you're more able to deal with it by comparison?
Yes, exactly.
So what happens if you do what Diana DeZoglio told you yesterday? She does 10 minutes in freezing cold water, 39 degrees every morning.
I'm chicken. I'm never going to do that.
Fine.
Now, Sam maintains that you get better gas mileage in your car with the windows up and air conditioning on the highway rather than having your windows down.
Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Okay, Sam. Jim says
I'm sorry, Sam. Provide a little documentation for that if you can. We got to take a break.
You probably heard it on Fox News.
Maybe.
Okay.
No, that's not fair. If you have an explanation, text this back.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We are talking about air conditioning in the summertime. Do you need it? Can you just run around with these fans like Jim does? You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support, so please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
And now's a pretty good time to call because, as we told you, until the end of the show, which is about 28 minutes from now, we have a $1-for-$1 match. You give $1, it becomes $2. You give 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000, etc. And if you choose to do these earbuds, these GBH 89.7 earbuds for $10 a month or $120 at once, it becomes $20 a month and $240. It's quite simple. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. You're supporting everybody who works really hard to bring you the best and most accurate information and entertainment we possibly can from dawn to dusk here. Again, the number to give is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Here's Jessica from Stowe, one of the people that donated and left a comment. Public radio and public television are my primary source of trustworthy news and information. Thank you for keeping it real and keeping me informed. Here's Janet from Rentham. Marjorie and Jim sustained me throughout the pandemic. I'm counting on GBH to do the same thing during this trying election season. Thank you. Yeah, it is a trying election season, no question about it. But as Jim said, if you have been hesitating and you're thinking about donating, this is the time to do it because we have this $1-for-$1 match thanks to GBH's members match fund that's going on just until the 2 o'clock hour, which is obviously less than a half hour away. So when you give, whatever you give doubles. You give $50, it becomes $100. $200 becomes $400. You know the drill. If you get the sustaining gift of $10 a month, that's when you get the earbuds, these really cool earbuds that we have on offer for today. Then your $10 a month donation pays for $240 of Boston Public Radio right now. We really appreciate everybody taking the time to give and listening to us. And as I've been saying all day long, it's a tough time for National Public Radio and Legacy Radio because people are spending a lot of time getting their news from Facebook and stuff on Spotify. And some people on Spotify, not to name any names, I mean, you really can't believe the biggest guy in the world.
He's only the most popular guy in the world, Joe Rogan.
Most popular guy in the world. And sometimes you listen to that show and you think, oh, my God. Anyway, we try to be fact-based here. We try to be living on planet Earth. And I think that kind of reporting...
That's so passé, Marjorie.
It's passé. It's passé.
So
That's
yesterday.
Right. But in any case, you have the match going for the next 25 minutes. So the number to call or the way to get us online, gbhnews.org is the online input, and 888-897-9424 is the way to call. Operators are standing by. I love to say that. And you'll help us out here at GBH continue what we're doing. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The air conditioning is back on at the library. It's off a couple of weeks. By the way, David Leonard, the head of the library, is going to join us next week to talk about this. Apparently, there's some issues that are relevant to the public, and he's going to join us and talk about that. So essentially with this, we're talking about air conditioning. And I am one who, for a lot of reasons, chooses to avoid air conditioning and not complain about it.
Yeah, I don't
and
believe
Marjorie
you
is
for a
somebody who
second.
uses air conditioning and then pretends she does not. Our number is 877-301-8970.
Okay, well, Jim claims he's very anti-air conditioning.
I am.
However, here is some sound of Jim Browdy, that would be you,
That's me,
melting without the air conditioning right here at the Boston Public Library.
If you want to get out of the heat and into the heat, you should come to see our, oh my God,
It's not that
the show
bad.
at the library. No, we love being
You
here.
don't want to dissuade anybody.
Well, that
Now-
was last week.
Yeah.
I regret what I
Jim,
said. I
you know,
really
Jim
regret.
claiming to be the person that's living at home in Cambridge with the fans on. I mean, I think a lot of us are very suspect, Jim.
No, you know, the first caller today, I don't remember his name, was it Ray? Whatever his name was very skeptical about the wet sheets. I would argue one of the most credible people on the issue, whose opinion I would trust, I assume you would do, is Reverend Irene Monroe. And here's what she just had to say. She texted, Marjorie's wet sheets
Thank you,
work,"
Irene.
with an exclamation mark.
There you go.
Wait, she's not done. I thought the idea was wacky until I did it.
I tell you, that's what
a hell
everybody
of an
thinks.
endorsement.
That's what everybody thinks in those first couple of seconds. We can talk about this again on Monday with the Reverends Irene
let's
Monroe and
spend a lot of
M.G.
time
Price
on
III. When you've that first second, it's a little startling, but it's cool and startling, and then it's great. Listen to this, Jim.
Yeah, please.
Jim Browdy saying to use a fan on a hot and humid day is like Sheryl Crow saying use one square of toilet paper. And I think this texter
That's a pretty good line,
is
actually.
absolutely right. Yeah, okay.
877-301-8970.
Carolina, Rhode Island, thank you for calling.
Hello, Caroline.
Hello, good afternoon, Karen.
And you too. Oh, Karen. Marjorie got that wrong. Sorry.
Right.
I got Karen, not an evil Karen.
Whatever. Hello, Karen.
So anyway, hello.
Hi.
So about 25 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be able to buy a house in Rhode Island.
Oh.
It was really, really drafty. So I fixed the roof and I put in a new boiler, and that was it. So I learned to live with 60-degree heat in the wintertime, because when I bought the house, heating oil was like $1.39, and then it went up to like $1 billion.
Yeah.
So I learned to live with 60-degree heat in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So now, in the summertime, if it's above 70, I am dying. So most of the time, I just live with a fan, and it's fine. And I think that you can get used to just about anything. And believe me, I complain, but my personal belief is you can get used to just about anything.
Well,
you're
Karen, that was great. She's basically saying what you were saying, the reverse of hot yoga. Hot yoga makes you able to deal with the heat, and she's saying by having her thermostat at 60, which, by the way, is really freezing in the winter, she says she acclimated herself to that, and as a result, she's able to deal with the heat. So there you have it.
That was a great
You can
call.
essentially change your human relationship to the environment around you, she's
Now,
arguing.
lots of people are calling about their dogs. Here's
What is-
one of them.
Oh,
I've
that's a
got an
good point,
80-pound
too.
golden retriever at home by himself all day. The ceiling fans do not cut it. It's not his fault that he's a fur coat on all year round, so air conditioning works for him. This is from Pat and Dunham. She's absolutely right. The first air conditioner I got was because of my dog, because the vet said that my poor little dog, Harry the P, best dog from C to C,
He
was
was
getting
fabulous.
overheated in the house, so I got an air conditioner for him when I was at work. Christy from Boston says, my in-laws have never had AC, and their house is full of mildew because the humidity is so bad. And that is a
That's
very
a
good
problem.
point.
That's a good point.
You know
I
what's
hadn't thought of
great
that.
about these mini splits that people get? One guy just said he's a $22,000 mini split.
Well, they
That's
can
a
be really expensive.
expensive one. But if you get a cheaper one,
The rebates, too, by the way.
yes, because I got a couple of them. The mini splits do heat, cooling, and dehumidifying.
Wow.
And the dehumidifying.
You have them?
Yes.
Where'd you get them?
At my sister's house down the
You
Cape.
have them?
Yes, they're great.
Really?
Yes, they're not
didn't know
cheap.
that.
But you do get rebates, and they work really, really well, and they're much better for the climate. Obviously, people call them heat pumps. but you can also call them mini splits.
You can.
Yeah. And
call them either. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
What do you choose to call them?
I call them mini splits, I guess.
Nice.
Leah
Okay.
in South Weymouth sleeps with an inexpensive freezer pack against her hip.
Yeah.
She likes it that way.
Yeah.
In bed. It works for her.
That's a little odd. Would you not
and
say?
the next morning, she puts it back in the freezer.
Well.
Why against your hip? I would think it would put it on
I
your
think you
back.
should leave it at that. If I were
Okay,
you. You know
right.
what I mean?
Okay.
Jim in Gloucester, you are, what are you? You're next on Boston Public Radio. Thank you for calling, Jim. What's up?
Hey there.
Hi.
I generally hate air conditioning.
Good.
Lived in L.A.
Yeah.
Didn't really need to turn it on. It's so dry. Lived in Florida full time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Had to have your winter coat with you if you wanted to go into Walmart. It's so cold, even though it was 95 out.
Yeah.
Back up here, it's better. But now that I'm old, us old people got to have better air for breathing. So, but it has been hotter, a lot hotter than when I grew up on the North Shore.
Let me tell you, Jim, breathing is overrated. I would try the alternative, see how it goes, and then if not, go back to the air conditioning. Thank you, Jim, for the call. Did you know that? You lived in California, not in the southern, but in northern.
It's dry.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
It's dry, so you don't even need to worry about it. It's not that...
Well, it gets very, very hot, but if you walk beneath a tree, the temperature drops like 10 degrees.
So if you're in Phoenix, where it's like 116
I don't know
every
anything
summer
about,
for
I don't
like
know
a month...
anything about Phoenix.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Sorry, I asked.
But I know that in Northern California, or like in the California desert, it's the same thing. It's very hot, but in the shade, there's no humidity, so it's a totally different thing. By the way, there is a fierce battle being waged among the texters right now, Jim, about air conditioning in cars.
Oh.
Many people are reiterating what one of the previous texters said, that better mileage with the windows up. You can hear the wind coming in. It means it's less efficient with the windows up in your car. You have better
it slows down your car?
and you get better gas mileage. Your AC in your car runs off excess electric generated, and there have been studies done that this is much more efficient. So maybe we're both
Do you remember during the pledge earlier today, you were saying you wanted to commend the people who work with us, even though you have no idea what they do?
They do something. That? They do something.
Jamie, could you make yourself useful? Could you find out who's right in this texting thing? Mm-hmm. They're arguing that the wind through your windows on the highway slow down. You got the concept here? Can you tell us where the truth lies? Thank you very much.
I think one of the texters may send us an answer, Jim.
What did they say?
When Jim is driving, he's got to let the hot air out of the car.
Let me tell you something. That is maybe the funniest thing I've ever heard. Joan and see me laughing, texter? Marjorie's laughing.
I think it's a riot.
Joan in Rhode Island, you are next on Boston Public Radio. Welcome to the show, Joan. Hi.
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 I just wanted to share something with you.
Please.
When I was young, and this will tell you how old I am.
Okay, please don't.
My grandmother used to have a little table that she would put a galvanized tub on, and then the iceman would bring a big chunk of ice, and he'd put it in the tub, and she would put a fan behind the ice, and then she would turn the fan on, of course. And it would blow across the ice, and blow across the ice, and blow back and forth across the ice, and her downstairs would be so cold. I was young, but I had to wear a sweater when I went in there.
You know, that is very interesting. The only problem with that, Joan, is you probably know that there haven't been icemen in like 90 years. So it's a little hard to emulate what happened with your mother.
The climate has changed.
Oh, it
I mean,
has.
that's the big deal.
How much would you like a big chunk of ice delivered
Well,
to your house?
I've heard that
Joan, thank
before.
you for the call.
But the deal is it didn't used to be like this.
No, it wasn't.
It didn't used to be like
Climate
this.
change.
It's climate change. That is correct.
I don't think Jamie got the right answer. Jamie got an answer from U.S. News and World Report about the
It's electric cars.
Which reap
most of us don't have electric. Read it during the break, Jim. We have to take a break right now. Yeah, we have to take a break.
Jamie's angry because I gave him bad advice.
Yeah, we're talking about air conditioning. What do you do in the summertime? Or what do you do like this weekend when it's going to get really hot? It's not summer until the end of June. Our number is 877-301-8970. Do you open the windows, put in the fans, or do you have central air conditioning and the whole house is cool as a cucumber? Listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
You know, for the rest of the show, we have a dollar for dollar match, which means every dollar you give, whether it's $10 a month or $120 all at once for the earbuds, GBH earbuds, or whatever you give, is doubled. And the argument Marjorie and I have been making is the primary reason you should give is to support the people who work behind the scenes. Well, we don't support that argument anymore because Jamie just wrote me a note and said, new policy, Jim, we don't work for you. Look it up yourself, Jimbo. I mean, who wants to support that kind of person?
Jamie. Sock it to him.
Now, if you like that kind of attitude, then you should call 877-301-8970 or gbhnews.org and contribute. In all seriousness, if you are going to contribute, and obviously it's your choice, and if you do, we thank you for it. Now's the time. A dollar for dollar match is huge. Obviously, your money has twice the impact, and we do have wonderful colleagues here. Here's your opportunity to show you feel the same way about them. You call 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Yeah, it really means a lot to us that you listen to us, that you take the time to contribute to us. That some of you who have contributed send in these lovely notes and say why you listen to this station, why you listen to this show. We're on 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week. It's a lot of listening, and as Jim has said, all day long. You listen to me and Jim and sometimes Jamie, but we have a lot of people behind the scenes or in the back room. We're doing whatever they do back there. It's very cool.
With the door closed.
With the door
usually.
closed. So who knows what's going on. I hope they're having a good time. But in any case, we couldn't do that without their help. No. So think about that if you're thinking about giving. And we have this match going on only till 2 o'clock. So if you've been hesitating, this is, like I said before, it's like a coupon. For every dollar you give, you get $2. Well, you don't get it. We get it.
You don't get it.
But that's what we're trying to do here, raise money for GBH. So if you give $10 a month to get the earbuds, which are still available, then your donation will pay for $240 worth of Boston Public Radio right now. It's a big deal. It means a lot to us.
What's the number?
The number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
What if they gave $137? How much would we get?
$274.
That is exactly right. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Well, welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are live at the Boston Public Library. That's all you need to know. Jamie failed at his mission, but Mark from Maynard, who is a listener, succeeded. Here's what Mark from Maynard said. Driving at higher speeds with windows closed and the AC on does get you better gas mileage because open windows produce more drag. And his source, he says, is from your rivals at the other great radio station, the great Car Talk brothers, obviously one of whom is no longer with us, but what a fabulous show. And if the Car Talk guys said it, then I assume it is.
Yeah, that's right, Jim.
True.
You're driving around feeling all holier than thou, and you're causing more problems. So there you go. I thank you very much, Mark.
I'm going to turn the air conditioning on the second I get in the car. 888-8. We have almost no time. So Maggie and Waylon, you're next on Boston Public Radio. Hey, Maggie.
Hey, Jim. Hey, Marjorie. It's Vic.
Yeah, where the hell you been,
Hi.
Pickleball Maggie? Hi, good to
She's
talk
been playing
to you.
pickleball.
Okay, what's up?
That's pickleball and air conditioning, of course.
I bet. Go ahead.
No. Well, I haven't had air conditioning since I moved from Dallas in 1975.
Wow.
I like fans.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, I guess you do. I mean, that's rather concise.
But,
yeah.
Yeah, but
okay.
I have to tell you that.
Please.
I just went to Pennsylvania, and I walked into my hotel room, and it was set at 66 degrees, and the fan was on high.
Wow.
I had to jump in bed to get warm.
You did. Well, that's a fabulous story, Maggie. Maggie, thank you. We've missed you. Call us again soon. That's Pickleball Maggie, who plays pickleball, by the way, and introduced us to, well, not really, but she supported our pickleball discussions here on Boston
Well,
Public
we've had
Radio.
whole conversations about this, how
Pickleball?
offices over air conditioned in the summer, and you're freezing. I mean, we said at the beginning of this segment that 78 degrees is the temperature at which you should set your air conditioning.
I know, it's ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
I mean, what's ridiculous is 68 degrees, because then it's freezing.
That's doubly ridiculous.
Freezing in the house, and it's much more economical. You save money if you do that.
Can I read from Tesla's official website? This is Jamie trying to redeem himself. He got this. Driving, and if you believe Elon Musk, which is quite a stretch, driving an aerodynamic vehicle, which is what I drive, with the windows open above 40 to 50 miles per hour is a backward step. More energy be consumed from aerodynamics. So the answer is apparently, if you're driving fast, like on the highway, use air conditioning. If you're driving like on the streets, the mean streets of Boston, then you should do what I do, which is not use the air conditioning. We only have 20 seconds. Do you have anything else to say?
Just one time I was driving, I used to have my mother's minivan.
You did?
The air conditioner broke, and I remember we were driving to Philadelphia with all the windows open all the way there. It's like a windstorm. Everybody there, hair blowing, the stuff was blowing all over the car. It was absolutely a disaster. That was a day that we could have used an air conditioner. Today, hope you can tune in tomorrow, and hope you have a nice afternoon, air conditioned or not.
And I'm Sonia Lee. I'm joined by Kiki Loa. This is the GBH Summer Membership Drive. It is just about 1:52. We are wrapping up Boston Public Radio, and your last opportunity here to support your listening today during the fund drive. We are asking for your contribution. The Summer Membership Drive is going well today, but your help is needed to keep Boston Public Radio on the air. gbhnews.org or 888-897-94.
Andre Previn and the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, Haydn's Surprise Symphony. And surprise, I'm Phil Jones, in for Greg Farisi.
WCRB exists because of you and M. Steinert & Sons Pianos in Newton. You can learn more about the new Steinway & Sons Spirio Grand Piano with technology that recreates performances by Rubinstein, Horowitz, Gould, and more at msteinert.com.
Classical Radio Boston is WCRB-FM 99.5 HD1 Lowell, Boston, WGBH-FM HD2 Boston, WCAI-FM HD2 Woods Hole, WJMF-FM Smithfield, Providence, and at classical.org.
One of Bach's Brandenburg concertos. Those always give me some nice get up and go in the lazy part of the afternoon. That's around 2:35. And right now, the Atlantic Brass Quintet